Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of By the Numbers. I'm your host, Richard Lewis. That's the Esports historian, Dr. Thorin Shields. There, he's trying to wipe the laugh off his face because we were just talking about some pretty bad shit, as we always do in the build-up to the show.
Yeah, Bold Fraud getting fired. I love you, Jason.
No.
Gone too soon.
That will be part of the show.
Of course. I was
but first, I'll obviously reintroduce our show's producer, Sam Bainlaw Davis. I haven't talked to him in ages. I may as well be sending this motherfucker smoke signals right now.
I've been sleeping, mate. I got vaccinated, and I've just been. I'm fine. I'm just tired all the time, man. I'm so sleepy.
That don't sound fine. That sounds bad.
I'm all right.
Why are you an anti-vaxxer, Sam? Why are you an anti-vaxxer?
I haven't been taking my vitamins, mate. I haven't been eating good food, so I haven't been doing myself any favors. Like when you get vaccinated, you probably shouldn't just sit in the house and eat fast food. Probably not great for you anyway.
I don't know. The
health advice from Sam now.
Yeah, exactly.
Changed a lot.
Take your vitamins, kids.
There you go.
I do like it. Take your vitamins, kids. So look, we're going to be talking. There's loads to talk about. Loads of hot button topics. I was watching your videos just before I went live about the MBK.
I know you'll have your own take on that, so I'm interested in what yours will be.
Well, I mean, first of all, I am gonna fucking, much like you did, I'm definitely gonna be reaming out all of these people. But it happens in football because anyone who says that doesn't even understand that. No, it doesn't always happen in football.
No, exactly.
And I've done extensive research in the build up to this show. But first, Duncan, shout out to .com, go to .com/RLS if you want to place some bets on some esports events in a safe, ethical environment. They're awesome. Love working with them. Why don't I tell you a story, a funny fucking story that will literally carry on from the last episode? Bit of continuity for a change. So as you know, and as Sam knows, because he was awake back then, pre-vaccine, he was conscious then, right? Deserto reached out to the Unsigned group, which is the agency Device signed with, who helped negotiate his record-breaking transfer.
What was the name of the agency again? It's like a new name.
Unsigned.
It was actually called Unsigned.
The Unsigned group. And Deserto reached out, and the Unsigned group agreed to give me, Richard Lewis, esports journalist extraordinaire, the first ever full-length interview with Device as an NIP player. And I said, I'm guessing it's an did they? Oh, bro.
This sounds to me like I'm trying to remember. There's another one like that. Like I'm pretty sure someone said I'm having CSPPA come on my podcast. I said you're probably not, but go for it anyway.
That was Davey, I think, got wrecked.
There we go. I didn't want to say it was, but I was like, you probably aren't, mate. He goes, no, I am. They're coming on.
That's the thing, actually, Sam. Before I go on and tell this story, Davey said he might drop by and shout for a little bit about why he doesn't like the map change that Valve made. Is it possible to drag him into the call? Do we have the technology?
Yeah, I'll just have to refix the cams.
We'll just put his box in the middle or something.
Just keep it in. Just keep that in your brain, and we'll see if we've got time to do it. So anyway, right, they agreed. I thought, right, brilliant. Now, obviously, on the previous show, I'd talked about, how were NIP able to stump up the purported €1 million in a fucking economic downturn to be able to afford this device transfer? Who are the Unsigned group? Why have they just now decided to make this foray into esports? And my working theory, although it is just speculation at this point, is that basically I believe that it was a co-funded deal. I believe that, they threw a little bit of money into the pot because it actually benefited everybody to get Device into NIP, and for the Unsigned group to say, look at us, we've signed Device, and we're the new hot agency on the scene, and look at the types of moves we can make happen. So anyway, they agreed to do it. I spent all day researching it, all day getting all my ducks in a row, rehearsing difficult questions, and immediately, you're getting pinged in on these emails. They're like saying, we don't want to talk about this topic. Could we see the questions in advance? Will you make sure you ask us questions about our company? And I'm just like trying to politely tell them that, like, yes, there will be questions about your company. Oh, you better believe it. But I don't work as an interviewer. I create like conversation maps and based on predicted outcomes and follow them down to a logical.
It's basically what I have to always say. They always say, what are the topics? And I go, look, I can give you like a vague, like a few touching points, but I don't know myself. Exactly. It's going to depend on what the convo is. Yeah, like you
exactly.
say. Yes.
So I explained that to them, and they were like super cagey, and they did again. Gets to 10 minutes before the interview. 10 minutes before the interview, and they fire an email across saying, yeah, we're not going to do this today. And I'm like, well, why not? They don't give me a reason at first. So I just sent an email across saying, listen, I don't know how much experience you've got with dealing with the media, but I don't just turn up at a time and talk to you. I have to do prep. I have to do this. I'm cancelling other work.
Put time in your day,
yeah,
of course.
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm just going to say, not a great start and grotesquely unprofessional. Most people know you don't stand interviewers up. You certainly don't want to stand me up, mate. And
also, by the way, if they haven't thought it through, let's imagine they have nothing to hide, Richard. It makes it look like they do. They haven't thought it through. Yeah. This makes it look like, fuck, we can't go live now. What if we don't know what to say?
Now, all they have to do, by the way, I mean, like, I'll even take it on the chin. I'll sit up to an hour. I'm still be pissed off because I've still done all the prep, but maybe within an hour, all right, I can salvage the evening. We can do something.
Sure.
10 minutes. They sent me back a snippy email. How dare you imply we don't know how to work with the media? How dare you imply we're not professional? After they've just done that, right? And so I sent them back going, I can assure you, as someone who's worked for a number of major outlets and mainstream outlets, you would receive a much more terse email had you wasted the time of a mainstream media reporter. And you should probably think about that going forward. So anyway, they then decided that that email was so insulting and so rude.
Contact Deserto and complain by any chance?
Oh, so yeah, Deserto basically were like trying to reschedule the interview for another time. They turned around and said, we couldn't do the first interview because Device was in training, which, by the way, what a fucking nonsense excuse and what a disgusting thing to do. You represent the player, even if that was true and he fucked up the time management. You're his agent. Take the blame, you fucking pussies. But they didn't do that. And then they sent it to Deserto because he sent us this email saying we haven't been very professional. Well, we can't tolerate that. So the interview's off now. So, all right, I guess we'll go back to fucking plan A because you're going to fucking figure out like exactly what this scene is about and exactly what endemic voices are about. And you don't just get to come in and talk absolute shit to people and treat them like people like, what, my time's is worth less than your time. My time's worth less than Device's time. I don't fucking think so, boys and girls. So, yeah, absolutely. Just want to point out that the unsigned group, if you are thinking about signing with them, they can't even negotiate an interview correctly. Probably not the PR agency, the representation players should want moving forward, especially given, like, I'll tell you this, it might make me look good to get the first interview with Device, but I'll tell you, him sitting down and talking to an experienced interviewer that knows what questions to ask, knows how to put narrative across, that's way better for him right now, because the first public thing he did was he did that vlog, and made a fucking cunt of himself, didn't he? Yes. Made it look like he hated Astralis, didn't he? Talked down to Zonic, made Zonic and Glaive sad. They both end. So I'm sure he would like to correct things like this. And that doesn't happen when you have an interviewer who knows how to drive an interview and not just some cunt pointing a camera in your face. But that's gone. Don't worry about coming back and offering me another interview, my friends. I've got another way I can get clicks. It's called reporting. I'm sure you'll be finding out all about it soon. But yeah, what a shower of cunts. Not surprising, of course, that they are funded by someone from Coldplay.
Add them to the shit list. There's the other thing that's so hilarious about these people, right? People can never just admit, you know what, I'm new to the space, I don't know it. If you did that, by the way, I'd give you a lot of leeway. They always have to pretend they know the space, right? If I was going to be agents or an agent and represent a new agency, represent a player like Device, I'd maybe have a look who we are. You know, we're pretty relevant in terms of the PR of Device and Astralis. Because if you had any idea, you'd be a fool to walk into this fucking storm. Haven't you seen the shit storm Astralis just went through the last 2 years? These people never get it, do they? It's
they don't.
They really do have to learn the hard way. By the way, I've got a little gem for you actually that I found out the other day that we didn't know for the original story, and I suspect it's just because of obvious circumstances in the world that they didn't feel comfortable talking about this. If this one angle had been played up, Richard, my whole perspective on Device going to NIP changes instantly. Here's the angle, right? Not a lot of people know this. If you have to go, I've just looked it up now on the Danish website to confirm it. If you go between Sweden and Denmark, you have to quarantine every single time. I heard 4 days, says on the website up to 10 days.
Yep, there you go.
If you just said to me, not only do I have to travel 6 to 7 hours for these boot camps and games, but every single time I have to quarantine, that you don't have to quarantine on the other side on Sweden, but on Denmark you have to quarantine every time in your home fucking country, Tell you what, if you tell me that, it's easy. I'd go, no problem. I'm not surprised Sweden was your destination, mate, where you live, and you just picked a team there. That makes way more sense than all this other nonsense, which I think he talked himself into. Well, I've never been the number one player, and listen, mate, that's all just shit that you say that sounds good. Now, I suspect he just felt nervous about addressing this topic in public. But like I say, that one detail, doesn't that just bring so much into focus right there? It makes sense. Instantly.
Poor bastard's going to have nostrils like fucking exhaust pipes, isn't he? You're getting that fucking... Q-tip shoved down there every fucking time. But also as well, because someone in the chat just asked, I'm trying to think. I've never been stood up 10 minutes before an interview. I don't think, like ever. It's like never happened to me in all my years. Very
rarely ever happened to me. I normally, if they do it, it'll be like like
on the morning.
At worst, like an hour before, maybe they might say, sorry, I can't make it or whatever.
Don't even ever think about that. I've had people like move a date, but like they've at least given me a day's notice or something,
And I will say, by the way, I don't play that shit. Like if you stand me up once, like literally, I'm not even going to ask. You better volunteer an apology, or I just never contact you again. People don't get it. As you say, they act like it's just an hour. It isn't. It's my whole day. Like on that day, that might have been one of the two major work things I had planned. And I might have even, as you say, turned down other shit. Like might be a talk show you turn down, might be a bigger interview sometimes. The maddest, by the way, I'll just throw this out there as a small pet peeve, because this is kind of the petty grievances segment. My biggest peeve ever, right, and this is a mad one, is people where, there's like a type of person in the world, there's a narcissist, who if you show kindness or you seem like you're the one in the weaker position, that's how they interpret it. They interpret it as weakness and think that it entitles them to something. They're the one in the superior position. So I've had some mad ones, mate, where I contacted like pro players that if I even said the name of them, 99% of people watching this show have never heard of them, and they're Counterstrike pros. But they're pros from like 2002. And because I contact them, and I am proactive doing it, some of them have like mad attitudes, and they're sort of like, I don't know if I would do an interview with you. It's like, you're aware, mate, this is going to get like 1,000 views on YouTube. Like, what world do you live in? Like, mate, some of them were mental. Some of them were so far up their own asses, it was actually unbelievable.
So let's do the other big story that broke just the other day. It was very nice of Team Liquid to do it for us before by the numbers, as so many orgs do, and that is that Moses, the coach, former commentator, you know him, you love him. He's been there since August 2020 in what was a surprise move to the scene at the time when he took on the coaching role, and sort of in a weird moment to do it, seemingly, Team Liquid announced that they'll be partnering with Moses as a coach, and then very shortly after, as in the next day, their replacement was the return of Adrian, someone who left in, he wasn't already in the team. Like, Moses wasn't a direct replacement, was he? He'd already been out for a while.
I think it was ages ago, Adrian went. I'm going to guess early 2020 or something off the top of my head.
Yeah, maybe.
I'll try Google it, maybe.
Yeah, so I think he left in, like, end of 2019, maybe. But anyway, so this sort of came out of left field. It comes at a time as well when, Team Liquid... they've had some pretty like the last result.
Apparently, he did replace him. Apparently, directly. Okay. Fair enough. In my brain, there was a space, but
I thought there was a gap too.
Apparently, maybe it was in August. Yeah. If anything, that shows the work that Adrian was doing in the media. I wasn't even aware he coached for most of 2020. Then again, some would question if he did.
So
listen, it's back on the menu. The decoy, fucking coach decoy now.
Of course. So look, let's just talk about their run and the build up to this decision. We'll start with February. They got a 3rd to 4th at Katowice. They lost there to Virtus Pro to stop them making a final. They played in the DreamHack Open. Bit of a disappointing result there to put them also 3rd to 4th, where they lost a series to Pain Gaming. They got a lot of criticism off the back of that.
Yes.
They go into ESL Pro League, and even though they finished 9th to 12th, I don't really think this is the full fucking story. I thought that format was fucking cheeks, mate. I thought there was so many, like, you lose one game, you finish 9th to 12th, but you've won more than a team that somehow immediately gets propelled into the next round and is guaranteed a 7th to 8th, and it was all over the shop. But whatever. They had some legit results there. They beat EG, they beat VP, they beat Fnatic. They lost to Astralis in what was Device's last outing, and they lost.
Somewhat fitting, by the way, that he just took care of Team Liquid for the millionth time on the way out of Astralis.
Yeah. And they lost to G2 2-1. You know, it doesn't really tell the full story. I think where people were like, fucking hell, are we ever actually going to go further forward? Because I think people were in general feeling good about the team.
Yeah, the fallen move, everything. It looked like it was heading upwards, right?
Yeah, but then basically Vendetta just came out of the fucking shadows. The Lannister send the regards, Moses. Skenged him up. And Dignitas beat them 2-0. And it weren't even fucking like competitive, really. I mean, the vertical that was like Liquid's pick, but on Nuke, it was another one of them embarrassing Liquid Nuke blowouts that seem to happen, you know, every third or fourth time they play the map. And so that was like the end of it. And people were like, "Yeah, we shouldn't be losing to Dignitas for fuck's sake." Even though, you know, they did well in the Blast Premier Spring Showdown by the low standards you would expect of them. And apparently, this just set off a chain reaction of events that resulted ultimately in Moses' departure and Adrian's return. So just to set you up, here you go, is the alley-oops you were talking about in your video about talent. I did hear behind the scenes, and I haven't talked to Jason yet, and that's a legit hand on heart. I sent him a DM on the day it happened, and my DMs are always a bit... I always go for the joke, so maybe, you know, I said, at least you outlasted Henry. That was my joke. He didn't reply, so maybe he is a sad fraud, not just a bald fraud. But basically, yeah, I mean, I heard behind the scenes that this was like essentially a mutiny, and it was a move that had been in the making for a while.
Yeah, I mean, put it this way: if you look at to me, the most interesting part of this is I actually thought when Moses joined the team, I never thought he was going to be some tactical mastermind revolution. That's why I thought this was the right team for him, by the way, because I thought, right, he's going to go in there. He's going to be like the glue guy. He's going to be the positive guy. He's going to be like a guy who mentally turns them around and brings them back to a good place. Well, if he did any of that, like Twist's leaving in the way he did, which seemed quite acrimonious, if you see like some of the comments he made, that's not a great sign. Then you have the whole thing where Fallen wasn't coming to be the IGL, but then you have to make him the IGL. But it's like a lot of these just seem like moves that like you don't want to do it initially. You just have to do them as you go on. And if you look at the way Team Liquid operates, they don't make the big scale changes. They chop and change one piece at a time, because if anyone knows the history of that team, it's a bunch of people who scapegoat people, like a lot of great teams in history, sadly. And unfortunately, I think first it was Nitro had to go, then it was fucking Twists had to go. Who's left? Well, Legion going to cut himself. Stewie's the fucking heart and soul of the team. Grim just sits in the corner keeping his head down, hope he's not getting called on by the teacher. And then the others, like Fallen's probably fucking, I don't know, figuring out how to cheat another way in Counterstrike. You know, whatever, I don't give a fuck. Maybe he's trying to join the plan. No, they'd have to actually want to be in an org and have loads of money to pay that narcissistic cunt. And then whoever's the fifth player, who even is the fifth player, Naf, he's obviously just off going, I don't know, man, Moses. What, that fucking guy from E-League back in the noise, old coach, and I've got, oh, fuck, yeah. Ooh, give me that back again. I barely had any. So, listen, all I'm saying is, put it together, think about the members of the team, think about who could be doing, think about who has a big ego, think about who's making moves. Like, you can probably figure it out for yourself. I suspect personally, if you look at this team, they're a team that's scapegoat. And what I mean by that is they don't take responsibility. They might say the right things in interviews or whatever, but they never have a good excuse for why they lose, you notice. It's always just some fucking absolute garbage. My fault was that you weren't in Europe. When I've been in Europe loads, you didn't get the wins. And I'll also say as well, like, to me, the sickest part about this is the Adren part. If you say this two ways, if you say we're getting rid of Moses, that could even be that you didn't like how he was. By the way, a totally legitimate opinion if you're a pro player. Also didn't get the results. I can't lie and say you had like fucking wins or whatever. But let's say you do that, and then it's either we're going to have a little phase now where we don't have a coach because we're searching for the right person for the project and we're doing this, or there's two ways it could go, and both of them are ridiculous. So I'm going to give you both versions. One is that apparently Adren knew nothing about this. She didn't know you were going to kick Moses, who, as far as I can tell, didn't get this info like recently. And rather did get it recently. Like, it seems to me like it's a surprise to him. I think that's why he's been radio silence. So if you really didn't, you just snapped decision and decided to get Adren. That makes you look like morons, because now it looks like you were like, well, we're winning when we had Adren. Like, yeah, 2 years ago in a totally different set of circumstances. Plus, you do know, like, you didn't kick him after the major. You failed like 1 billion semi-finals and finals versus Astralis after that. Like, it didn't even end good. In fact, as we just joked there, most people don't even remember he was the coach for apparently like 3/4 of fucking 2020. And by the way, that means he was a coach during the worst time of Team Liquid, a way worse time than when they had. And by the way, they arguably had a better roster back then than when now they have a fucking team that's actually done some things, even though I agree, nowhere near the top. Or the second answer is even more mad to me, which is the idea that, like, this is the guy it had to be. So you've gone out there to the fucking log cabin. Oh, Dren, you got to come back, man, for one last job. Give me a break. Both of those sucks. That's the part I can't tolerate about it, is the idea that, like, Adren was the answer to whatever Moses couldn't do. Listen, that's the problem with moves. You've got to look at the input and the output. It can't just be one on its own. So I think it's... I agree with the move in terms of the Moses side. I'll just say that. It doesn't matter that he's my friend. I don't think he can accomplish it. It's the same with Yanko. I tell all these guys when they go in, with that team, you have two options, win or get the fuck out. And guess what? He didn't win, so he's had to get the fuck out. So I can't blame him for that. I just don't like the way this was handled. And by the way, where's the video? Thank you, Moses. Where the players tweeting? Well, you know what? No hard feelings, mate. Thanks for what you brought to the team. Yeah. You not got loyalty. There's no loyalty in this fucking game.
Well, I mean, we know there isn't, and especially not in North America. But I mean, yeah, look, I'm like you. I think ultimately, if you look at the totality of Jason's time as a coach in Liquid, you have to describe it as underwhelming. I mean, that's just, the reality of it. And that's not to be mean-spirited. I mean, sure, I'm sure we'll sit down and be it privately or publicly on a show like this. No doubt there'll be a ton of things we don't know about behind the scenes. But ultimately, at the end of the day, while we get some information, I don't think that's necessarily relevant when you make an assessment of how somebody does. Like, you have to adapt to your circumstances, overcome any potential hurdles. That's the measure of true greatness. If it wasn't, everyone could go and be a coach and it'd all work out. You would apply your ideas unchallenged, and they would be for the better. So part of the job of being a coach is basically moving past all these difficulties, and clearly that didn't work. I think I agree. There appears to be like a weird way that this Team Liquid roster goes around handling moves. Because I don't know if you remember when I sat down with Twists and interviewed him when he left, he basically said, like, he was having some problems and wanted some time off. And then he came back from that time off, and they were already like playing with Fallen, and they were going, "Oh, don't worry, he's just a stand-in. It's no big deal. It's not part of a long."
Oh, they're always passive aggressive. Don't worry about that.
Yeah. And of course, obviously, we all know how that turned out. So, I think, and again, as I said, I've been told that it wasn't a complete. It might have been a surprise for Jason, but Adrian knew he was coming back,
right?
And so. It suggests to me that the players probably went to Eric first and said,
sure. Yeah, listen. You know the old fucking analogy. The monkey doesn't let go of the ranch he's reaching for till he grabs the next one, does he?
He's got the next one. And so I think in this instance, basically Jason might have known a little bit late in the day, and clearly it was a move that who even knows how, like, again, to the extent which management was involved. Generally, one thing I'll say about Team Liquid, and I've had my ups and downs with them over the years, but one thing you can always say about Team Liquid is they understand the importance of, like you say, the media aspect of it, creating goodbye videos, creating welcome videos, having like proper announcements with a bit of fucking sizzle. There are orgs that understand the value of that. And instead, what we got was basically thanks for all the work. And what was it they said? Like, you were a great communicator and a beacon of positivity. They've sort of pussyfooted around saying, you were a great coach. It's not like they didn't achieve anything in his entire tenure.
You could have said that. Thanks for taking us to a higher level than you found us at. There you go.
Yeah, exactly. Something along those lines. But they didn't say that. They chose not to say that. And yeah, I like to say, while I can have no qualms about the decision, I don't think it's been handled particularly well by all parties. And probably Jason comes back now to the talent pool with a fresh set of eyes and a fresh set of grievances, some of which are probably valid.
Oh, there's one thing to say as well. Like, I hope that other talent are paying attention right now. Because here's the problem. Your relationship with those pro players is nothing like what their coach's relationship with them is. Nor is it with the orgs. So the same org that's friendly with you and gives you all those hoodies so that you wear them at the events, then the same fucking player that's having the beer with you going, my bloody coach now doesn't know what he's doing. You should coach me. Tell you what, he's all friendly with you. This is why they say don't work with your friends. Like, friends and family. Guess what? When he's your boss, now he's in the bar, virtual bar in this scenario, talking to another guy about you being the coach he wants fired. That's the fucking world you're stepping into. And another thing, if any of you talent think these team orgs give a flying fuck about you, I'd maybe look at how Cloud9 treated Henry G, Team Liquid has treated Moses, Yanko's experience in MIBR and FaZe Clan. Like, these orgs, they always sell themselves on the idea we're a family. We bring it's about personal relationships. If it was about personal relationships, you wouldn't cut the person as though you were like, we're announcing redundancy cuts and there's nothing we can do about this. The management, like, y'all don't give a fuck. Remember, these aren't even publicly traded companies usually, Richard. It's not like they have like the fiduciary response. Sorry, we must remove you for the shareholders. You just chose to remove me. So be a fucking man and just say it. Don't pussyfoot around. But privately, be a man. Just tell me why you removed me, what the situation is. Publicly, if you're going to lie about every other fucking person, every great player who's washed as fuck and had 2 years extra salary, you pretend he was great on the way out and he chose to leave. But you're going to fire me. Get the fuck out of my face with that bullshit. And I just hope talent pay attention, because you all think, well, I'm sick of these TOs just taking me for granted. Well, let's just have a team org take you for granted, shall we? That's the next move. And also, I hope you're all learning. Coaching's a fucking hard gig. It's its own field, and you have to really build it up. It's really hard. You're not going to just take your skills, no matter how much you know about the game, just go straight in the coach and be bigger. That's why, if you notice in my videos, mate, I never said Moses will kill it, Yanko will be the best. Fucking I always kept that thing of like, I don't know how it'll go. Like, I'm pulling for him. I think they have potential, but who the fuck knows how they're going to work out in the game? So one of the reasons I've never actually taken any coaching gigs. I like the idea of it, but again, what if I come to a team and, as you say, what if I have all these ideas and then they're just like, nah, not doing that. Or, oh, we tried that with the last guy. Didn't like, yeah, it's all fucking, that's reality hits you in the face like a pile of bricks then, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I know we've talked about this off camera and so just for the interest of sort of committing it to, posterity. I've always felt that there is this aspect when, with a lot of the commentators, a lot of the talent pool, when you get to the top of one thing, you're getting all the accolades, getting all the awards, getting all the big events, doing all the finals, you're on the road, fucking whatever it works out at, like 280 fucking days a year or something insane. You do all the ESL stuff, you do everything. It's like, that is shit and it does suck. But also the highs really lose their like potency. And basically a lot of people that in the talent pool, I think, on the one hand, you are getting wrecked by TOs, as you said. But on the other hand, I think ego plays a little part in it. And you think to yourself, well, you know what, I'm at the top here. I can just move into another area and apply my knowledge there. I think the community as well, like kind of like create this weird environment where by now people should just understand. And I'll say this especially. Actually, I'd say between 2014, 2016, maybe 2017, the CSGO subreddit was tolerable, fine, one of the better esports subreddits.
It was way better than League at the time.
It was one of the better communities. Now I feel like a lot of the older guys have moved on, and I just see complete morons.
Garbage.
Yeah,
I mean, this topic that we're going to get to on the MBK one, what a travesty the way that was presented. It was garbage, wasn't it? There wasn't even discourse. It was just idiot opinions.
Yeah, and unfortunately, what starts happening is these guys, right, imagine the logic this takes. You've played maybe 2,000, 3,000 hours. Maybe you've made it to global. Either way, you've never played professionally. You've never worked on a broadcast. You've never worked for a team. You've never been around the pros. You've never heard things behind the scenes. Yet you go on to Reddit and you go, Semler doesn't know very much about CS. Someone who has more hours than you played, commentated all the big events, done all this. So imagine the fucking hubris and almost like cognitive dissonance it takes for somebody with provably less experience to think, yeah, I've got it all figured out, me. Why? Because I play. Yeah, well, he plays. Right, yeah, but like, yeah, they can't do it. They can't formulate the thought. And they do it with all the talent. They say, Jason doesn't know the game. Semler doesn't know. I saw a comment on the Goodbye Moses thread. Someone had gone, all the talent failed because talent knows fuck all. Who the fuck are you? You know what I mean? You're some fucking rat sat at home commenting about it. Like, shut the fuck up. You don't have a fucking clue what goes on behind the scenes in this business, how to run a team, how to coach anything. You'll never get a chance to do it either, you fucking pleb. So stop having your public power fantasy, you fucking loser. So it's like, I think eventually, like, the past few years have just been unbearable. The way this new community is sort of, these new kids have come into the scene. And you see it in, like, you know, all the other games, all the Fortnite, all of that stuff. You see them basically, you know, it's like, yeah, you don't do anything there. You molded his mold. You know, they all just talk the same. They know nothing about the history of the game. They're not interested in the history of the game. They're only here to play the game because it's fun. They'll fuck off to another game when it's over. And I think like 2 years, 3 years of like the talents hearing about how they don't know anything about the game. I think it gets inside people's heads and they want to prove a point. And, unfortunately, you know, Yanko hasn't really proven that point. He took 2 Poison Chalice jobs and basically had to sort of come back humbled, almost like Gary Neville when he was manager of Valencia, and basically, you know, just doesn't even talk about it anymore. Like, it's like it never happened. It was like some demented fucking fever dream. You know, Henry, we all know about that. One of the most outrageous turnarounds from any community ever, to go from Henry being like the most beloved caster, winning all them awards, the community loving him, to literally this false narrative that he overpaid for everything, he blew all their money as fans, like all of this nonsense. He killed Cloud9. So obviously that one didn't work out, and now Moses, which is everyone's like, Moses is a terrible coach. Casters can't be coaches. I'll point to how many ex-players do you want me to point to who've gone to coaching and failed? Do you want me to point them all out? Because I will. And it's like, well, yeah, but they're players, though. The dick sucking that goes on for players is fucking so outrageous and
let me just say this. Mental. I'll give you the ultimate example, right? Even though I have heard some things, like he had some parts where he was a good coach and came up with some interesting things, all that needs to be said is this. If you get any mega expert about 1.6, like Lurpace, me, Sandface, some of the people who were around and watched the history of that game and the best players and teams ever, right? We would all tell you, gun to our head, the best in-game leader ever was Ave from MTW. Yeah. He coached North. The North that everyone remembers after winning that Stockholm event bombed the next major completely, and everyone got fired within a few months, by the way. If someone that level of experience and greatness in the game can't instantly become a cut, no one can. This is why I also do think, though, like you say about the hubris angle, the other problem these guys had, and it's the worst problem to have, is they were never going to come over and go, right, I'll start at nothing. This is a new job. Give me a normal team. You know what? I'll take... maybe I'll take a team that's 15th in the world. Maybe I take a team that's 12th. Maybe I take a team that's 20th in the world. Now I'll learn my chops, and then I'll go to the big spot. No. Because they're making so much from what they do, commentator, analyst, they'll only go for the dream job, Richard. Well, what you find out is, guess what? If you're the manager of Real Madrid, fucking AC Milan, Manchester City, guess what? These teams are only allowed to win. If you even come fourth, they might shit can you. You made that comment on a couple of episodes ago about how Solskjaer was, people were saying, should he be fired? We're like, man, you were like second after all those years of fucking like not even having a sniff at the fucking title. Like, that's the business though, that you're in when you do that. Same as my boy Mourinho when he's being fired when he like, you didn't win the league. But I won the FA Cup. Doesn't matter. We brought you to bring the league. That's the word. Unfortunately, you are stepping into that world though. And I do feel like a lot of the talent, they just think again, it's like I said before about not understanding how a relationship changes depending on your perspective. The same people who were going, oh, I'm a fan of you, they'll turn on you, mate, because all of a sudden you aren't the commentator in Moses anymore. Now you're just the coach, and they think you're a fraud for some reason, you know.
You know, but I mean, like, you know, people don't understand there is no rhyme and reason to this. Now, obviously, I was the guy that basically chronicled the entire history of Counterstrike Source, which was like the redheaded stepchild in the Counterstrike family. No one wanted to know about it. And, you know, people forget Xtaz was a player in Source. I knew him as a player. I knew him. I think he even had a different player name that temporarily escapes me. But he was dog shit in Source. He never played for a top French team. He never broke through. Closest he got was he played in some team called Extensive, where I can't even remember who was on that. I think Cayley might have been. I don't know. But anyway, then when he moved into CSGO, he played on a bunch of, again, dog shit French teams, and he was coaching by 2014. By the way, also coached with a bunch of teams you never heard of before he got his big move to Vitality, and now we all regard him as one of the best coaches in the world, if not the coach of 2020, right? So, like, Moses has never been given that opportunity. He's had less than a year as a coach, and he's a fraud. He's washed up. Casters can't do it. This is where being successful in one area, like, always counts against you. People don't want you to succeed twice. And, like, never in the history of the internet have we had a culture that is more about tearing people down. Like for trying new things, for mild failures. We'll go to the ends of the earth and we stand whichever fucking person you have a parasocial relationship with. You'll pretend their farts smell like flowers. Someone else tries something and they've already been successful in one thing. You absolutely despise them and secretly will them to fail. So while I wouldn't use the word failure to describe Moses, it was a very underwhelming tenure. Whereas for Yanko's coach, I would say that was a failure. So,
here's the thing as well, because I definitely agree with that point.
There's a difference.
It's actually something that I myself misunderstood. I remember from like that classic fucking, it's like 10 years old now, that interview that Kanye did with Zane Lowe, where he was just going off in this interview, right? I remember thinking myself, what's he going on? Why you keep going on about fashion, mate? Who gives a fuck? Aren't you like some sick rap producer? And that was his point he was making, was that apparently in the fashion world, right, they sort of run like their own little mafia type thing. Like they won't even like no one will sell you the fucking building to make the factory in Paris to make your clothes. No one will give you the materials that they get because they all sort of run the fucking scene, and they can sort of say who's allowed to be in and who's not. Right? It's a little club basically. It's not that you're just rich like he is and you can just come and do what you want. And so what he was actually complaining about was this: they allowed him to be a rap musician and to be a producer, but then they did exactly what you're saying. That's all you're allowed to be though, Kanye. You can never be anything else. All you can ever be is a really good rap producer. So then when he was like, well, I have some ideas about sneakers and I'm making clothes now, they were like, no, you're just a rap music guy. You don't do that. That is a real thing. People hate the idea that you could succeed in two areas. And I'll say one other thing, because a lot of people have made this as like almost a meme angle, but there's something to it. I might look into it myself, might start asking around the scene, right? I always said, those Brazilians can't be coached. Nah, forget the Brazilians. Fallen can't be coached. Think about this track record. He comes in a Counterstrike. He has limited success. Then he gets Cold Zero. Now he's getting a little bit more success. He's still nowhere near the top of the world, even though, by the way, he has Cold Zero and Fur and Fallen. You all forget that, don't you? That Cold Zero, Fallen and Fur, all three played together. You'll all say they're the greatest three Brazilians ever, and they were coming just top 8 in the major, and they still couldn't beat anyone. They beat Titan in one best of 3. That was the closest they ever came. They were never, ever doing anything more than that, right? So in this scenario, then they get Zeus and Taco. They become this amazing team. They win 2 majors, and Zeus magically decides to leave and go and be an in-game leader at Immortals and play the game. Now listen, I could believe some angle at bucket list. I want to play. Weird how the team weren't like killing themselves to keep him though. And then they just have never had a coach. Does no one remember that? They just never had another coach until Zeus rejoined. Never had another coach. Oh no, wait a second. Wasn't when Zeus rejoined. There was a man called Yanko joined in the meantime. And Yanko joined, and by the way, Yanko did the same thing that Moses did. He took them at a low level, took them to a higher level, but they couldn't quite win the big tournaments. So they fire off Yanko's ass. He's gone. Bring back Zeus. By the way, at this point in time, I always even said to Zeus, I know why you're going back. I know why you're like those guys. But I told him, mate, just professionally, I'd tell him, shove the offer up your fucking ass. I left your team. I went and I had way more success in Team Liquid. I even took fucking Tackle with me and resurrected that cunt's career. I'm not coming back to your team where you're going to disrespect me. But he did, sadly. So he went back. They cocked him completely. Fired him during Flashpoint at the very beginning of the tournament. Never had another coach ever in the team. To this day, never had a coach. Then the team goes apart. Now Fallen goes over to Team Liquid. Within something like, what is it now? 8 months, 10 months, Moses out the door. I don't know. Listen, Fallen, you're either the most unlucky motherfucker of all time, an anti-talisman for coaches, or there's something you're going on with you. Do you not believe in coaches, mate? Do you not think they do anything? Like, I don't know.
I mean, listen, while we said when the Fallen move happened, I said I worry for Moses because of that history you've just alluded to. I don't think this is a Fallen move because it makes no sense, because then why have a coach at all? You know,
I've always thought if you look at the Fallen teams, they have the coaches the fucking beard, mate.
Yeah,
it means you don't get all the blame as IGL.
I don't think Eric's going to go and do that. I think he's going to want to have some input. I mean, you know, makes no sense to go back to the fucking well twice, does it?
I mean, mate, he's the one where he's like, someone's like, it's a shame you can only talk in the timeouts, isn't it, Adrian? He goes, you can take timeouts. You're all getting timeouts. He's that fucking meme.
Yeah, I know. But yeah, it's like, I don't know. It's
timeout decoy. There we go. That's his new name. Timeout decoy. There we go.
It's I don't want this to be falling because I think if it was, I don't think it would be Adrian coming straight in.
I don't have any info on that. That's just a speculation. I'm just connecting dots there, boys.
I don't know. It doesn't ring true this time around. But I agree. You know, it's a crazy situation.
I'll be keeping my eyes on it. All you need to know is this. I purposely did this, Richard, in my video about MBK that you referenced. I just dropped the line at one point in time about, a serial cheater like Fallen. I can say that, Fallen. It's proven, motherfucker. I've got you dead to rights. I can call you two-time major winner. Great. I can also call you a serial cheater. Do you want to do something about it? Get in this fucking DeLorean and go make it right. That's probably one of the most unreasonable things I've ever said. Just make a time machine and go back in time, innit?
So look, let's move on to the other big story, which of course was the Valve update. You always have to be careful what you wish for with Valve. And I'm probably going to have some conflicting opinions here. So just to set the story before we bring Davey in, Davey's going to be our player representation on this. I know he only plays for Mythic, but it does count, and I like him. He's a good guy. So,
unlike the CSPPA, we listen to our player representation.
Yes, indeed.
And value their opinions.
So look, basically what happened was there was the Operation Broken Fang ended. They made a number of changes. The big one, obviously, is that Train has been taken out of the active map pool. And it's been
Operation Broken Fang the sting operation that Elysian Fallen were running, and now that the snake broke its fang biting the back of Moses, that's how it died, was it?
You're going to have to workshop
I know,
that
listen,
one, I'd say. You have to workshop that
Someone write that one down. It's not quite ready, that. I know. I brought it out too early.
Take that back to the workshop and get all the Family Guy writers you work with and all that. Right. But anyway, so basically, Train's out. This new map, Ancient, is in, and this has caused a lot of consternation from the community because people were expecting Mirage or Dust 2 to be the map that was taken out of rotation, not Train. Just as a bit of additional information before Davey comes in and fucks shit up. It was Train, and obviously we all have a problem with this. I'm not saying I agree with it, but just as a point of information, Train was the least played map in matchmaking for all the pub scrubs and ranked hogs out there. So Davey didn't like it. In fact, I'll read Davey's tweet before he gets it. He's never backwards about coming forwards. Let me just scroll down. He appears to be tweeting things out in block capitals for reasons I don't understand. Holy fuck, this is what he said. I always like when people start with a holy fuck.
Come on.
Right, here it is. Holy fuck, the level of incompetence is shocking. You guys are doing everything you can to make sure Valorant overtakes your game, which is the most successful esport of all time, by the way. Absolutely pathetic. And then he followed that up by saying...
Tell us what you really think, Davey. Fucking hell, man.
Yeah, he said, my argument is that Train is not the map to remove. This is not the time to remove a map. Valve are making competitive decisions based on matchmaking data, all of which is shocking incompetence. Now here's the man himself, Brave Davey. Look at him. Dual nationality is actually true now, bro.
Yeah, it is. No, officially now, legally, which is, and I'm as always one for decorating. I just happen to have these, so...
Here's the thing, mate. You've now officially moved out of the circle of North Americans that are just annoying when you go where you're from, and even though they're from like North America, or they just go, well, I'm part German, a 10th Norwegian, and a bit. You're none of those things. You're a fucking mutt who lives in North America. Shut the fuck up. But you can actually do it. You've got the passport now, mate. There you go. Congrats.
Yeah. No, thanks. Yeah, no. Love the Queen. I know Richard's a huge fan of the Queen. So
big fan. Fuck the Queen.
Yeah, Under Pressure, one of the best songs of all time. I fucking love the shit.
Abolish the monarchy now. Fuck the Queen. Yeah, go on.
Yeah, there you go. So sorry, I didn't exactly catch where we are in the.
He just read your tweet, basically.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Which, by the way, was a very level-headed one. You basically said, Valve's killing the game. Valorant's going to succeed, and they're pathetic, so,
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, no,
it's not like a less eloquent version of my tweets,
Yeah, Valve seems to be big fans of doing that for whatever reason right now. It's you think Valorant would make them wake up and, like, maybe do something productive or, like, make the game better, but instead they just consistently break the game with their updates, too. Like, I don't know. I'm sure you guys don't play very much matchmaking these days, but they completely broke their matchmaking with Trusted Mode. good.
I saw that
thing.
yeah.
They did that thing where they challenged the cheaters again, and then for like 3 or 4 days, just every other game is spin botters and matchmaking. So they just like completely ruined it.
You mean when they made the statement like only 1 in 40 games is cheat? Right,
yeah,
I
exactly.
see what you mean.
Yeah, so they just like do that thing where just like what Valorant did with their beta. Like we have the best anti-cheat in the world. There's not gonna be every game's cheaters, right? Because of that, like just stupid. But as far as the map thing goes, people seem to not really like understand where I was coming from on that. They think that I like am against new maps being brought into the pool, and that I was flaming Valve for putting Ancient into the pool. Whereas I've said publicly so many times, I think it's okay to put shit maps into the map pool, right? I actually think that's fine. They did it with Overpass, they did it with Cobble, they did it with Vertigo. All of these maps were shit when they got put into the pool, right?
Yes.
Every single time. And then
some
what
of them
happens
still
is,
are. Vertigo.
yeah. No, see, I think you're wrong, but that's okay. That's fine.
We'll get to that.
Regardless, the point is when you put a shit map into the pool and you force pro teams to play it and you force competition on it, then you can figure out what's wrong with it. They'll figure out what to abuse. They'll figure out what's good, figure out what's bad, and they can change it over time and make it better and better and better until it's good. Like Overpass is now. Everybody agrees Overpass unanimously is one of the best maps in Counterstrike, right?
Yeah.
When it first came out, it was pure dog shit. It was terrible. It sucked to play. There were so many problems with it. It was awful, right? So my problem isn't that they put Ancient into the map pool. In fact, I'm on board with that, and I've been saying it forever that we need a map rotation where new maps are coming into the pool. My problem is, first of all, the timing of this. In the middle of the RMRs. In the middle of it. Now, let's say, hypothetically, I don't even know what Valve's stance on this yet. I don't know if
they've tweeted it out that the RMRs will use the old map pool, but they did specifically say these RMRs.
Right. Exactly. So that's my point. It's like, so is this for the entire major cycle now? They're still using Train?
It sounds to me like the next RMR is the one where it comes in. That's what I interpreted that statement to mean.
Which completely fucks the competitive integrity of pretty much this entire major cycle now.
Yes.
Because they've changed the map pool halfway through. It's completely fucked it. Which is completely ridiculous. But now also teams who are playing in the European RMR, are they like, well, do we practice Train going into this, knowing that Ancient's going to be in next? So now there might be a team who qualifies for the major on Train and then plays at the major on Ancient. What the fuck is this? This is so unbelievably bad timing, on top of the fact that they took out one of the fucking good maps. Like, what the fuck are you doing? There's Dust 2 and Mirage still in this game that everyone has complained about being stale forever. The reason why nobody complains, like people don't say Train is stale, because it's the least played. You know why it's the least played? Because it's fucking hard to play. That's the whole point. That's what makes it so good, is that there's so much tactical depth to it. It pisses me off. If you take out one of the shitty maps that as everyone's just in their comfort zone over and over again, you take one of those out, force them to learn something new, well, maybe we'll get some new things in the game. Like, wow, wouldn't that be great? But no, take out Train, fucking leave Dust 2 and Mirage in there. I'm so sick of this shit. It actually it actually pisses me off.
Yeah, I mean, look, what I'll say is there's one point here I'm sure we're all agreed upon, and I've seen Riot Games fall into this trap time and time again. I don't think you should be balancing anything to do with the professional circuit based on matchmaking or public gameplay. I think that is a really bad decision. And, you know, to take Train out because plebs don't like it, like, think about how many good, like, competitive matches we've had on Train. Think about all the iconic moments that have happened on Train.
Who the fuck sees Train coming up and goes, I don't really want to watch this match?
Like, it's legit. It's like the ones I skip these days are Vertigo.
Yes.
I skip Vertigo these days.
Because you're a coward.
No, because it's shite. It's
not a good viewing match.
Not.
Yeah, it's definitely not a good viewing experience.
The problem I have is this, Davey. Listen, I think I know both sides of that one. People who play the game a lot, especially if they play it like at least a semi-pro level, like I'm sure you still do, right? When they play them up, they always say it's fun. Like, you know, there's a lot you can do in the game. Like, there's all the fucking, it's a nice tactical game. Like, even if you go in 9 times, like, how do you go in? Like, it's these small fights. The problem is, mate, I can just tell you as a raw viewing experience, like, I'm not a complete noob. I'm watching a little bit of the tactics, but like, just in terms of the entertainment factor, it is garbage, mate. Yeah. On that level, it's a very hard sell to people. Like, if I told that, they would think it's the same tactic every round, mate. I know people who don't think there are tactics. They think you just run up the ramp on team.
Yeah, but the thing I'll say is, though, it's like, while I don't like it as a viewer, and I will literally miss out Vertigo matches unless I'm, like, mandated to watch them, like, or if it's a decider in an important series, I'll just, like, leave the room until it's over. Players seem to like it. So
yeah, it's true. I don't see many even complain now.
Yeah, like, you know, they've accepted it and kind of got on with it and created tactics around it. Now, literally,
it is though just a fucking bomb retake fucking practice map though.
Yeah, for sure. And one bomb site in particular, it's Go A simulator. It's A Rush, but not Rush. It's slow A take simulator basically. But whatever, like that's fine. Now, the thing that blows my mind is like this idea that like Mirage, by the way, which always throws up like, for me at least, entertaining games, close games.
Oh, it's the most hated by the pros. Yeah.
Yeah, pros hate it. Pros want it out. And I
are you on that side then, Davey? You hate Mirage?
No. I don't actually hate Mirage. I think Mirage sucks if you're playing against teams that are worse than you, because those players, like for example, if you're a pro league team and you're playing against a premier team, those premier teams, chances are those guys have played 40% of their Counterstrike games in their career on Mirage. So you don't want to play them on that, because those players immediately get like, I can't.
It's the new Dust 2, basically.
Kind of. They just have this extra confidence where they feel so comfortable on the map that they could cause upsets. So I don't like playing like pugs on Mirage or things like that. But as far as pro CS goes, I don't hate Mirage that much as other people do. I think that there's the logic to it where it's been in the map pool the longest, so removing that one makes sense. And by that logic, I understand it. Personally, I hate Dust 2. I hate everything about it. I think it just sucks. It's awful to watch. It sucks to play. Everything. It's just terrible. But I think going back to your train point, where like you say that a lot of viewers don't. When they watch it, they don't understand it. They don't really know what the tactics are. They can't really follow
Vertigo, you mean?
No, Train. Like originally when you were talking about Train, right?
No, I that was all Vertigo I was talking about.
Oh, everything was Vertigo? Oh, my bad. I thought the initial point was Train.
No.
Okay.
No.
Well, even so,
I like Train being in. People might not understand it, but
I think the same point I was about to make applies to Vertigo. It's because people it's the newest map. Not many people have taken the time to learn it. Not many people have taken the time to play it, especially casual viewers or players. People that just hop in, play the game for fun. Yeah, they're just going to queue up Dust 2 Mirage with their friends. They're going to play that and whatever, and that's fine. Which is why you can have like in the competitive matchmaking thing they have right now, there's like, when you queue up for CSGO, you can select what maps you want to play and you click play and you play the game. You don't need to take Dust 2 and Mirage out of that. You can let the plebs keep playing their Dust 2 and Mirage, but just take it out of the professional map pool,
like they did with Cash.
Exactly, like they did with Cash. Cash is still in there. You can still play Cash on Face It. You can do that exact same thing. You don't have to take Train out of the active duty pool for Valve sanctioned tournaments in order to do that. You can still take out the oldest map like Mirage or the worst map, which is Dust 2. You can do that and still leave those maps in for the casual players who just want to play them, right? You don't need to take those out. So why they've decided to do that is so and this is what I was complaining about, is like you were saying. Like you were saying earlier, Rich, they actually just looked at the matchmaking data and be like, well, Train is the least played. People don't like Train. Take that one out. Like, it's so unbelievably short-sighted and stupid. And it's unbelievable to me that they would do that, because the way that you could expose more people to playing Train or playing your least played map is to have professional games on it. That's how you could expose it to people. They could learn it. They could see their favorite player do something on the map that they really want to try. Maybe they'll go play it now. But when you have the same maps in the rotation for the past 7 years now, it becomes so just unbelievably boring. And especially maps like Mirage and Dust 2 that everybody pretty much unanimously is tired of watching now. And like you were saying, even though Mirage games, I like them, but like you said, a lot of pros just don't like the maps. They find it boring. They find it whatever. So like, why not take one of those ones out? It just doesn't make any sense to me.
I will say, by the way, because I've always defended Mirage. My bias for Mirage, though, is I really love to watch sick mid-round callers. Fucking Alexi B, Carrigan, maybe even Blame F could fit the Stanislaw. You notice these guys fucking love a T-side of Mirage. So I like watching these guys go down mid, just literally chess piece, push, pull you. So I will say, like, if I'm only watching those players, I'm not really just watching Mirage. I'm just watching the absolute best of Mirage. So if I was to think of, like, Flashpoint when I was watching it, and I was just watching two random teams play, I probably wouldn't enjoy watching Envy play Falls on Mirage. I probably wouldn't be a banger, if I'm being honest. So that's also the reason, by the way, to tie into what you're saying, as to why you can't use the publicly available data. Like, I'll give you an example. If you think of great games on Train, mate, these are like, how about at the major NRG versus fucking Astralis? These are fucking straight fire. These are like tactical chess matches, back and forth. Even the fact that in theory it's CT-sided, you can get an amazing run going on it. How about Mad Lions versus MIBR in the Flashpoint final? Like, if you know the nuance of what's going on behind the scenes, these are unbelievable matches. Meanwhile, like, you know what? Say what you like about Dust 2, Mirage. Most Dust 2 and Mirage games is like, this team can't hold this one spot, punished a million times. This player dropped 40 kills. Like, that can't be it. That can't be the sum of Counter-Strike.
No, for sure. Look, I don't know where Sponge kind of fits in our spectrum of thinking about this. I'll read you the tweets he had to say about it, and then Davey, Duncan, you can jump in. He said, to all of you complaining about the addition of Ancient, did you play it in scrimmage mode? If not, fuck off. You all jump up and down like entitled children demanding change, but half of you don't even take notice of the parts of the game that they do update. If you took the time to play the most recent co-op mission in Broken Fang, you would have seen how painfully obvious it was the devs wanted you to take notice of what they were doing with Ancient. Your sheer lack of interest means the map is far off from being competitively viable and will now require extensive updates and changes before it plays well. Just like Vertigo and Overpass, it requires the best players actually playing it to push its boundaries. So instead of being anti-Ancient because you don't like change, you don't think the map is ready, or the most likely option, you are just a moaning bitch, why not queue up, play some Ancient, help the devs collect the data they need to make the changes required for this map to be good? And finally, to the fear-mongering morons within our ranks, thank you for continuing to publicly signal how little you actually use your brains. Would be easier for you to walk around wearing a sign, but this works too, I guess.
You know, the mad thing about this is I am realizing now, it's like I'm getting perspective by seeing someone else do what I do. And I've realized, like, the big problem we have in CS, especially because we've all played and watched the game for so many years. And in the meantime, Valve have done a terrible job communicating. I mean, put it this way, go back to the beginning of By the Numbers. Richard used to defend Valve a lot and be like, you know, maybe we should, like, you know, let's not be as harsh on them, or what we're talking. Tell you what, even he's changed his opinion over the years, mate, because they just don't fucking communicate. So the problem is, every time we have an opinion now, we never just have an opinion. It's like that fucking scene from Network. It's like, I want you to get up. I want you to go to your window, and I want you to say, I'm sick of this, and I'm like, we're all just like fucking mouthing like motherfuckers, because I totally get his vibe there. Like, first of all, he's just addressing general plebs. He's not talking to me and Davey here, right, in this scenario. Like, I don't take that personally. By the way, I haven't played Ancient in fucking matchmaking, but I don't assume he's telling me to fuck off or whatever. I mean, I would say I don't have like a strong opinion that it's a bad map. I haven't played it yet. I do think, though, a major flaw with what he's saying, and this is something about Sponge's character that's different from mine. He always has this optimistic vibe about Valve and ESL. He believes these people, they're trying to do a good job. It doesn't matter how many times they fail you. Oh, they're still trying to. And so what I think is very naive about this is the part in the middle of that. That's what I don't get. I agree with this premise. Davey said it earlier. You have to put the map in the pool. It's probably going to start off shit. And then the idea is, when Simple and all the fucking sick teams play it, you're going to figure out if something's OP. You're going to figure out something could be, and it'll get good. What I don't understand is the idea that preemptively we would have made it good by playing Broken Fang, because that contains within it a piece of information that I am unaware of, which is that you can communicate with Valve. Like, to this day, I know they now claim again to have another email. They love to do that over the years, by the way. I have some email that you can go. I call that the Microsoft recycle bin. You know when when Microsoft goes, you seem to be an error, would you like to report the error? Mate, you can have the internet turned off and press the button, it says it did it. Like, that's like a fucking button for a lift that's automated and doesn't even go up and down on a button. That's for morons. That doesn't do anything. So in that scenario, right, I don't really believe that part. I think, and I've got reason to believe based on anecdotal evidence I've heard from others, I don't personally believe that even if some really well-meaning let's say Extaz and Zonic and all these fucking sick coaches sit down, they play the map in Broken Fang, and they send these massive emails to Valve. I think you could tweet this. What do you think about that? We're running a lot of strats on this one. I don't believe Valve. I don't know. I can't say I don't believe they read it, but I don't think you ever get a response, and I don't know if they actually listen. That's where I'm skeptical. That's just where I'm coming from, you know. I get the sentiment, though. Certainly fuck people who just haven't played it and go, it just must automatically be bad. I've never even tried it, though. You know?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that people are like, "Oh, this map shit, take it out of the pool." Like you say, I completely agree with the sentiment as well. If you've never played it, if you haven't tried it, if you haven't given it a shot, then don't say anything. And also, like I said at the very beginning, I'm coming from the side of, even if this is a 2 out of 10 map right now, then it's better to have new things in the competitive map pool, even if they're shit right now. It's fine. You know, like, most maps aren't going to be as well made as Dust 2 or Mirage, because those maps were incredibly well made at their time, right? That is the whole point. That's why they existed so long. That's why they've lasted so long. It's because they were so well made. So yes, even if Ancient came in right now and replaced Dust 2, I would rather play Ancient because I fucking hate Dust 2. But to say that Ancient is like an objectively better map than Dust 2, I think is wrong. Like, just based on the history of Dust, it's been around since, it's got to be what, like 2002, probably, maybe earlier even, 2000. Like, it's been around forever, right? So to say that Ancient, this brand new map, is even going to be better than Dust 2, the map I hate, would be ignorant, I think. Like, but that doesn't mean it can't be that good. That doesn't mean it can't be good in the future, and that doesn't mean it can't have a positive impact on the map pool by it being in there.
Have you ever heard, by the way, maybe from other have you ever heard heard of anyone actually being able to properly contact Valve and like feel like they got like I was heard at least. Or like I said, you don't have to change it, but do you think it's possible?
The only thing I've ever heard is that the CSPPA has had contact with Valve in the past.
My
That
God.
is the only
God.
That is the only thing I've ever. That's the only thing I've ever heard. I don't know anybody who's had direct contact with them besides when they used to come to majors and like you would get to talk to them.
What's that?
Yeah, no. Like I remember back, but before they implemented the Zeus into the game, this would have been maybe early 2016, maybe late 2015, where the Valve devs had put in the idea to players at a major where there was going to be like a stun gun in the game where it shoots somebody and when it hits them, it freezes them.
That was the strongest thing he revealed, I think. Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah. So it ended up becoming the Zeus, but that was the original. That's the only time I remember any player contact with Valve was when they used to come to majors. I don't think they even did that anymore in recent years.
And the only thing they said to Valve was, "Don't tase me, bro." What a fucking ancient reference that is, by the way. It's a banger, but it's so old. I just realised when I was saying that's about like 3 election cycles ago, Richard. I probably shouldn't do 12-year-old jokes, really.
Whatever, mate. It's all your material. It's good.
There you go.
I mean, me and Sam went to see Andrew Dice Clay live once. Trust me, his act's not really
Vegas.
Yeah, it is. His act's not really got updated with the times. I never even thought it was funny. Anyway.
He wasn't.
Yeah, it was a lot of that. A lot of noise.
He wasn't. Put it this way, he was overrated for sure.
Yeah. Well, you want to know what was really mad about that? Like, it was when Roseanne Barr. Yeah. Right, Roseanne Barr had been cancelled because, when she tweeted that mad shit and blamed it on Ambien, right? And she'd not been seen in public or she hadn't tweeted or anything. And she turned up at this Andrew Dice Clay gig that me and Sam were at. And we'd been drinking, I couldn't believe what was happening. And she came out, right? And I thought she was going to do
on
a
stage.
Set. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I thought she was going to do a set, right? Because she obviously used to be a wicked stand-up. Like, I've got a lot of, I like Roseanne Barr.
Sure.
She was like a feminist icon when I was a child. It's weird how times change.
Yes.
But anyway, she was one of the first women to be given a major network comedy show to run.
Yeah,
she hired all the writers. She made a point as well. Like, she was about diversity and inclusion before we even used those buzzwords to describe it. And anyway, she came out on stage and I thought, she's going to do a set. Mental. But she didn't. She just said, "Yeah, well, I've had a lot of spare time and I've been thinking about killing myself." And I was like, "What?" I'm looking over at Sam like, "What is this?" She said, if I was going to kill myself, this is what my suicide note would sound like.
She did an OJ. If I was going to kill myself.
And she read a fake suicide note on stage. It was like one of the maddest things I've ever seen. It was mental. Anyway, nothing to do with this show, by the way, but food for thought. Anyway, so back to Davey.
Best of the numbers clip right there.
Have you played a lot of Ancient?
Yeah, I've probably played 20 maps of it across the however many months Broken Fang's been out. Probably played it 20 times. The change they've made like one significant change where they added a new backhaul that connects the spawn to one of the sites. It's just a small change, but that actually does change how it plays a lot because it makes retaking. Because before you could only retake the one site from one spot, so they added like another route, which was a good change already. Like they're already making improvements, right? Which is good. But overall, I think the map plays a little bit strange. The spawns are a little weird, like the timings towards mid, where like nobody can really get mid control right now without a ton of util, or like it's gonna be one of those things that's entirely spawn based. Whoever has the best spawn is gonna have to go for some sort of mid peak. Like that's how it looks to me right now. Overall entry on one site's impossible without mid control. It's kind of like Dust 2. It sort of plays in like Dust 2 in that way if you think about how mid works on Dust 2, right? If you want to get into B, the best way is a mid to B split, right? Same thing on Ancient. If you want to get into B, you have to do the mid to B split. So overall, I think like I said, it's fine right now. I don't think it's a great map by any means. I think with a few more tweaks, it could be better. But overall, it's not bad. Train is definitely better.
Things I've heard from around the way, I'll be straight up. Like I've looked at a fly through of it. I'm not gonna play it probably because I just don't play CS.
You can come play with us one night.
Never happening. So anyway, I heard that first of all, the FPS optimization is absolutely fucking diabolically poor.
Yeah, pure trash.
Is that just because of the
I forget. Yeah,
so there's actually a few. So I think one day I was even playing with Sam when this was happening. If you look at certain textures on the walls, you just drop to like 70 FPS. Like you could be looking at one wall, have 400, and you look at a certain texture on a wall, 70 FPS immediately.
Yeah. Is Valve aware of how many people in South America and CIS region don't have a fucking god tier PC? They don't have like liquid nitrogen cooling in their PC.
No, but
They've
what's
got
mad is they're definitely aware of it, Duncan. They're definitely aware of it, Duncan. It's one of the reasons why they've always said you don't get 128 tick. They've gone, listen, you know, most people's machines that play this game wouldn't feel the benefit anyway. So it's like, okay.
Because I'm getting sick of that, by the way. You know how many times I have bought a PC no normal person could afford? I'm talking like I pay like €4,000 every time. I've had to do it, Davey, 3 times just for CSGO. It's the same game. I paid €12,000. If I go in that game and I throw smoke and I go any fucking FPS drop, I'm tagging you, John McDonald.
Sam was going to say something else about the FPS
I was going to say
on there.
The FPS, but also the permanent background noise of crickets and jungle noises.
It's like Aztec, you mean?
Because
you know
loud, mate.
Dude, here's a sick thing a lot of people don't know, right? Even pros in 1.6, when they played Aztec, had to bind the command stop sound because you will lose your mother. It's like fucking Chinese water torture. You will lose your mind hearing that sound over and over again. You're trying to sit and spawn. Please make it stop. Make it stop, please. I'm not even near anything. It's permanent. It's inside my head. At the end, you'll just get a drill. It's me at the end of fucking
Scanners.
pie.
Oh yeah, you're going with pie.
Spoiler.
But yeah, I mean, like I say, I haven't played it, but like the things that I've been told by other players, FPS optimization is bad even for a pro rig. So think about if I'm hearing it from players, the type of PCs they have at their home, and then think about how that impacts on the average guy who just probably has like a very functional PC. The worst part is as well, if you're of the philosophy, just upgrade, bro. Worst time to do it because you can't buy even a middle tier graphics card now costs like 3,000 fucking.
Shout
euros.
out to whoever allowed graphics cards to get the Yeezys treatment, where now like they've all been bought up and we're rebuying them from people.
We can thank a global
pandemic. What sort of dystopia is this?
A global pandemic and the rise of crypto, basically.
No, but we're now in a world where it's like you have to suck a guy's dick for real in a back alley to get the fucking new graphics card.
Yeah, well, I just told you that for banter, but anyway. So
I better get that fucking FPS now, John McDonald, or it's fucking over for you, mate.
No, like seriously though, that 3080 will sort you out, mate. So don't worry about it. Thanks for a good time. Right. Anyway, look. So the other thing I heard, Simple said it is the most CT-sided map he's ever played on. I think he tweeted that out publicly. So, again, I have no frame of reference about that. That'll be a Davey question.
Yeah, so like I was saying, to get entry to the B site, there's really only one entrance, and all you need to do is put an op there, and that entrance it's kind of like coming out upper B tunnels on Dust 2, except without like the ability to now throw nades through the roof, right? Like it's just like a big tunnel, a gargantuan tunnel. You're just inside of it, both on either side, and then you just put an op on one end, and you kind of can just hold B. B's pretty easy, and mid CTs get there first. So, like I was saying, the T's, you can't really get mid control. There's only like the one left side entry, and it's this tiny little corridor. Like you could fit 2 people across it, maybe 3 at the largest part. So there's a small corridor to get mid from T side. You can't get out mid. CTs get there first, and once you're out mid as a T, if you try to scale forward, you have to look in 3 separate directions for CTs. There's a thing on your right where there's like a close cubby that CTs can be hiding in. There's the second entrance towards the B site on your left, which is like this big like circular roundabout thing, and then up through middle is like up towards the CT spawn. So there's so many angles to look at from mid as you're a T trying to scale forward, and then the small amount of map control you get on T side towards the other bomb site is like it's like negligible. It's kind of like having party control on overpass. It's like okay, here we are, we got party. It's like now you have to take bathrooms, you have to take long, like you have to, you know what I mean, like you just having party control doesn't get you into the site. That's kind of how Ancient plays, where we have control of this one part of the map, so now we can start taking map control. Is kind of how it works. Like it is very, very CT sided.
I mean, will that still hold true? Because we all know how broken the fucking economy is. I mean, that's like a separate issue. Like T's basically hold all the cards economically speaking. Is introducing
love the way that's not getting fixed. Valve's doing other stuff, but that's just cool, isn't it? That's good. Yeah.
The way that most of the angles work on CT side, like if you wanted to play it this way, you could there's so many tight corridors and small spaces while you're trying to get map control that you as a CT you could play with mag 7s, MP9s, shit guns. Like you don't actually need to have ops and M4s to hold the sites on this map. You really don't need to. There's so many close tight angles, you just don't need it.
Right. So I mean, you think it'll still hold as being a CT sided? Like
I think it'll be
once
CT.
the pros get it.
I think it's more CT sided than Train right now.
Okay.
Like,
Basically,
in
the
current
shit's
meta.
got more close, tight angles than a fucking Instagram reel.
Yeah.
Not bad.
There we go. I'm redeeming myself for that earlier thing.
Yeah.
No.
No. That's good. It's good. It's good material. So look, I mean, I the community in general don't seem to have gone over well with this. But yeah, I mean, overall, like I'm kind of ambivalent. The only thing I disagree with is essentially the removal of Train. I don't really care if the map starts out as shit, even because I think we've had that with Cobble, we had it with Overpass, as Davey said, we've had it with almost every new
They've
map.
got a pretty decent track record. I'll give them credit. Like
Yeah.
I would have personally thought, because their track record with other
Nuke
things
when
in the
it came
game,
back in as
they'd
well.
put it in, and we'd just be playing the same version of Cobble for 5 years. But fair enough, they fixed all those maps, all of them. All the maps that got the reworks. Listen, I thought the Nuke rework was a bit shit, but then I think in some ways, like, probably just Astralis being amazing made people like sort of see other aspects of that map, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, and that's another thing. I mean, you know how it works. New map comes into the pool, it's everyone's permaban. Then some team says, fuck it, we need a Hail Mary because we're not that good. So they go and they work on it, they bring it to the game, you see it in play. Other pros go, well, they're dominating on that map, but we could do a much better job if you do this and you do that. Then they start playing it, and before you know it, inside of 3 to 6 months, it becomes a staple of the competitive scene. Everyone's playing it. We saw it with the Nuke remake. We saw it with Vertigo. We saw it with Overpass. We saw it with the old Cobble and the new Cobble. Here's a question. Should Valve be more bold in the map pool changes? So instead of everybody losing their minds over bringing in, one map that might not be optimized and taking out a beloved map, do you think maybe they should actually say fuck it and do like 2 at a time?
I guess I'll go first on this one. No, I don't think it should be 2 at a time. I think that's too much. But what I've been saying for years that I think Valve should do is have a simple rotation every major cycle. You take the oldest map in the pool out and you put a new one in. Whether they want it to be Ancient, Anubis, some other random map they've decided to make, I don't care. Because like you were just talking about with Vertigo, and when a new map gets put in, most teams just be like, all right, permaban for now. We're not going to bother doing that, right? But then if there is a team that decides to become a specialist on that map, that team automatically has advantages in the vetoes now. Every single time you go into a veto, they have an advantage because they always have that map in their back pocket. And
when do the old maps get cycled back in, though? That's the problem,
right?
Like,
so that's what
if
you
you're
have to
adding
determine.
a new map every time, they're gonna you see what I mean?
So so that's where like that comes down to Valve to determine how many maps they want to be in their overall cycle. They can take maps completely out of the cycle if they think they're bad, or they just didn't play well throughout their entire cycle that they were in the pool. If people still just didn't really like them and never really played well, just take that out of the cycle permanently, right? Like that's where it becomes a little bit more nuanced, and we have to sort of, I guess, trust in Valve to be able to handle that somewhat reasonably. But I think overall that is still a better system than what they do now. And I think that the way that the vetoes would play out is like right now, let's say there's still a bunch of teams that are permabanning Vertigo because they don't like it. Isn't the case anymore, actually, but let's just say that is the case. Then as soon as now you put in Ancient, you take out, let's say you took out Dust 2, right? You put Ancient in now. Now the map pool with Vertigo and Ancient in it. Well, you can't permaban 2 maps, right? So now teams are going to have to choose. Do we want to get really good at Vertigo? Do we want to have that pocket pick of Ancient? And teams are going to have to implement those maps into their pool, and we're going to see them getting played. And the more they get played in the pro scene, the more that trickles down, the more people are going to start playing it in pugs. People are going to start playing it casually. And then those maps being played in the pro scene are going to make the improvements that they need. Like for example, with Cobble, the original Cobble was completely terrible, but even the most recent version of Cobble, like that was still in the competitive pool. I remember when they added those stairs to the B bomb site, completely changed the dynamic of B now all of a sudden, right? That was it was such a small thing, but it was a huge change to how that map played in the meta. And I think that in order for that to happen, you need to kind of force teams to play those maps in their pool and actually find out how to play them most optimally. And that's how you can improve the maps the most. And that is what will get people playing the maps and keep new people interested.
Yeah,
I've basically always had a similar take. Like, I want a cycle of maps. I don't mind new maps, by the way. Like, one of my favorite games to watch was StarCraft Brood War. They did exactly that. They had a team of map makers. They made a couple. They cycled a couple in. They cycled a couple out. You kept most of it, so it's not like you lost everything you had as a pro. But the idea was you have to stay on the grind. You've got to keep working on the new map. So if you're on top, if you want to stay on top, you got to do that. If you're an underdog team, maybe that's where you put all your attention. Also, you're essentially just doing like super high level playtesting of the map for Valve. Here's the problem, though. To me, like you're saying, the obvious way is to make it a cycle. To me, if we have in a world where we go back to like 2 majors, just make 2 seasons. Just make 2 seasons because it comes in at the beginning. It's okay to lose the first tournament. It's the beginning of the season. Why the major? Then you've already, like, listen, if you can't get it together in 7 months, well, then you were never going to be good on that map anyway. Now, the reason why I also like that personally is because then you can even have a vibe where it's like tennis, like the different Grand Slams are on different surfaces. Like this guy, it's okay that he's not good on clay now because after that comes the Australian Open or the fucking US Open, which is hardcore. Like you could even have a whole thing where like this would be another concept to and I'll even add in a secondary aspect that people probably wouldn't think of in that sense. Now imagine a team like Astralis is on top. Remember when Astralis was on top and because Cobblestone was removed, their permaban at the time was just cash, right? Which they definitely could play, by the way. They used to be banging on that. And then the joke was no one ever used to pick Train into them because no one played Train at the time. And then the time Team Liquid tried it, they could still beat them on it anyway, right? Well, I tell you what, they were the greatest team ever. Imagine how much more great we would think they were. If the map cycle changed, then they were the best on that map cycle as well. That's like unbelievable shit. So I even think there's like massive positives it could bring to the like competitive history. It would add to the story. It would, because if you think about it, right, one of the things I hate about pro player interviews is all of them say this, right? When we fell off, the other teams caught up. It's like, what is this caught up and like that? What are you even talking about? Like everyone practices and how good you are now is how good you are now. It isn't like, it's not like your night at Astralis was 95 completed on the game. And then they just chilled and then everyone else came and they overtook them and Gambit's 99%. Like it's always in relative scale. So in my opinion, it's an obvious way to do it, but that's another thing. Valve doesn't even hint. Not only do they not hint they'd ever do something like that, because there is no community liaison person. You can't even float the idea to them, mate. You can't even get a sense with it. They don't even do interviews. They don't do interviews. You can't, like, put it this way. Me and Richard can't interview Valve. We can't get their thoughts on this stuff. We could contact them. They probably just never fucking reply, mate. I mean, that's why I always said personally, I hated it when people like Anders would come out and go, no, it's not true with the majors. They talk to you. I've had those conversations, Anders. Tell you what, I get that guy couldn't even remember what I told him as he was having his 3rd cocktail going, yeah, sure, the shotguns are bad. What? Like, they don't give a fuck, mate. That idea never goes anywhere.
What I will say is after I had that big, long stream, like, you know, whatever it was, like 6 hours, where I was, like, talking about fucking CS and how fucked it was from a competitive perspective and how I could see the dominoes falling down. They replied to every email I've sent since, which has included talking about, you know, people have been sending me some cheats and all sorts of nonsense. So, you know, I don't know. They've never been a public-facing company, which used to be kind of quaint in its way, mysterious. But at the end of the day, that was when Valve was fucking W after W after W after W. Every game it made was great. They made Steam revolutionary, fucking a literal game changer. Now, unfortunately, what we've seen is the company scaled up and been successful, you know, they've had a couple of misses on the games, more than a couple, although they did make, you know, the new Half-Life in VR, which is straight fire by all accounts. You know, they've had problems with Steam. A lot of developers are coming out and talking about, you know, the fealty you have to pay to be on Steam, giving Valve 30% just to sell a game on there. You know, this is all in a class action suit that's going on right now, where they're calling it, you know, they're saying it's a violation of antitrust laws. Who knows which way that'll go? The problem is no one has ever really sort of gone toe-to-toe to compete with Valve in that arena. And when it happened with Epic Games, who, by the way, as you can see from the Apple Epic lawsuit, go look at the numbers. If you think Epic Games have had like a big W just because they're throwing money everywhere, they're still massively behind Valve.
They're not like 150 mil behind their own projections as well.
Oh, yeah, mate. Like, yeah, it's really, really bad. Basically, their biggest ever day in terms of like 1 day revenue that they ever generated was when they had the Borderlands 3 exclusive. The rest of the time, I mean, go look at the numbers. Anyway, that's by the by. And then in this day and age, if you're a games developer, you have to understand the financial benefits of running a successful esport, which I know on some level Valve do because they do it for Dota. The problem is that for whatever reason, CSGO has become so out of step with what the Valve employees themselves like, enjoy, and want to pursue that we're just left with a couple of legacy guys. And it would be honestly be better, like, for them to move away from that famous way of doing things that Valve do and just assign a team, right? And you must have someone there who's, like, indifferent to the idea of, like, all right, you know, Dota is my favorite game, but I could learn to like CS. I'll go over and see what that's about. I'll be a community manager. I'll introduce myself. I'll touch base with some players, get to know some people, see if we can resurrect this project. Because the DPC... it's been going on in Dota now. That's the Dota 2 Pro Circuit, for those who don't know. Have you seen what they've just introduced for that? Every team has a splash page, player statistics, games that they're winning. Like, I know Valve understand that esports can drive revenue. They just don't seem to give a fuck as it pertains to CS. And so dipping your toe in and out the water like this, here's a change of map. It's not great. We took Train out based on some arbitrary data we measured that's got nothing to do with esports in the first place. Like, you have got to give a fuck about esports, or you'd just be better off fucking not wasting all of our time. Just let it go quietly then. Fuck it.
Yeah, I was saying on my stream yesterday, it would be a fucking hilarious. You know how Gabe is like over in like New Zealand or whatever now, and he's doing all these TV appearances talking about Valve's new VR stuff, which by all intents and purposes actually is like industry leading VR tech, by the way. Like, that's what everybody says that I know that's really into VR. And I would just be, if one of the interviewers was just like a huge Counterstrike fan one time, right? They play Counterstrike, and they just asked him, Gabe, so like, what is the competitive map pool for CS right now? And just even see if he even has any clue what the current competitive map
he
pool
doesn't
is.
know.
Of course he doesn't. That's my point. It's like this is what I mean, and it comes from the top, right? It's a the classic saying, everything starts at the head, right? So if Gabe is in charge of Valve and he's the one who's pushing VR, everything about VR, loves Dota, Counter-Strike doesn't give a shit, doesn't know what why are any of the developers below him also then going to give a shit about Counter-Strike? Because they might be super pumped to do this huge update for CS, and they go and Gabe Newell's just up there like, yeah, cool, man, but like, we're doing all this VR shit right now, so that's nice. Like, go on and just go ahead. Like, just go and work on your little game. It's fine, Like that's the vibe that it feels like comes down from Valve all the time.
Davey, that's the map topic. Do you have to go and do scrims now or something?
Well,
or?
yeah, soon. Yeah, I gotta go soon, but I'll let you guys go on and finish your show anyways. I just wanted to come in and rant a bit, I guess, because I was ranting on my stream yesterday, and I figured you guys were gonna cover the topic.
Well, welcome back. You've been repatriated. It was my plan to take the whole of North America at once, but we'll start piece by piece. We'll take you. You can keep Semphis, Canada. You can have that one, mate. He's a lost cause, but at this point in time, he's just like some sort of shit version of Rocky or something. He just keeps in the gym all the day long.
Don't even know what that means.
I don't know. Whatever. I meant Arnold, but whatever.
Yeah,
there you go.
Arnie.
Yeah. But so yeah, mate. I'll catch up with you later, but I won't be playing Ancient with you. So
yeah,
thanks for dropping by.
Fine. No, you can come play with me, Sam and Jackie. It'll be great.
Nah.
Yeah, for sure. All right. See you later, guys.
Much love to you, brother. So there you go. That was Davey dropping by, giving us a player perspective. Because, as I said, I don't play CS anymore. So when it comes to the game side of things, it's better to have a proxy, someone that actually does play the game.
Oh, by the way, for people who don't know as well, like, they announced it, I think it was only like a month ago or something, that Davey and Jackie is like a new duo in CSGO. I saw they were doing some of the Flashpoint stuff. Yeah,
they've been killing it, mate. I've been watching a lot of their casts. I've been on a few of them, actually. Yeah, really good duo. So go and show them some love. So let's move on to our other old friend on this show. Conflict of interest. Always a wonderful
sometimes I start to think that I'm the one who's just gone mental and it never existed, Richard, and I'm like basically some sort of fucking Don Quixote motherfucker just tilting at windmills like, what am I doing here? Conflict. Everyone's like, there is no conflict. My favourite is, I think I'll never beat this one. It's when they go, so what if there is? It's like, well, I can't beat that. You win. You just win on that one, I guess.
Yeah, but again, me and Sam were joking about that the other day because someone else had said something absolutely outrageous. It always goes back to the Bill Hicks bit where he's in like a Waffle House, like, and the waitress walks past and like, hey, what you reading for? And it's like, not what are you reading? What am I reading for? And it's like, well, fuck it, you stumped me. You've got me, haven't you? So yeah, a lot of
people... They're like, wait, I've got him now. Get ready. Here's my Paxman style. What about football, though? He's got me. I broke on the stand. The prosecution got me. Like, please. I know. Stop, please, football. Believe it or not, God didn't make football. It's just some guys about 200 years ago. 200 years ago, I think, whatever.
So let's just talk about this situation for those that haven't been up to date. So obviously we've got Flashpoint coming up, Flashpoint 3, the qualifiers because the Flashpoint 3 event is going to be an RMR. And so they're having some qualifier matches basically to get into the later stages. And NBK, who is still contracted to OG at the moment, as many people will know, he was replaced by Nico, but he is still under contract at OG, has been playing with the team. I call him Double Pony. I know on your video you were like, you didn't know if it was DBL Pony.
I'm not sure,
I thought it was like a reference to, like, it was Kiyashima and he was looking in the mirror and there's Whatever.
There's 2 ponies in this room. Then he does it like dogs. He's like, who the fuck it? You brought another fucking horse in our team. And oh shit, it's me, my bad, man.
Yeah. So anyway.
Imagine how much cocaine he must have to do.
Oh man, like BoJack Horseman, isn't it? Full mad one, isn't it? Full mad. This isn't a sugar cube. Anyway, you got Body, Lucky, Afro, Joko, and MBK, and they've had some like okay results. Obviously, you've got some experienced French players there. You've got some new up and comers. MBK, obviously, the jewel in the crown, and he is just officially a stand-in. Nothing's been done. Nothing's been agreed. As I said, that he is still contracted to OG now. In this double elimination bracket that they're going to play, he will start against Vitality, and then depending on how the next game goes, he could face OG because they are in the other side and they're taking on Astralis.
Yeah.
So basically, what you've got here, I mean, for me, is essentially a classic conflict of interest in the sense that, as Duncan outlined in his video, which you can go look on his channel, but just to put it again in very simple layman's terms, you have a player that can be influenced by their employer representing another team that they are going to directly play. And as a result, this has happened historically in sports. It's not beyond the realm of possibility that, and I'm not saying MBK would do this. This isn't about what people would do or will do. It is about things that can happen when people's integrity is compromised.
Things that can't be policed, quite frankly.
Yes,
that's the whole
exactly.
point. Yeah.
The whole point of a conflict of interest is it doesn't have to be enacted for it still to be a conflict. You want to stop the worst from happening. That's why we have a rule as a society that you don't engage in them. But anyway, just by way of for instance, it's not a given that MBK is going to leave OG. If you want to check that out for yourself, you can literally go watch the interview I did with him over on the Rivalry channel. Basically, he said there, listen, as far as I'm concerned, the door's open. I made some mistakes. I've been benched. I respect that. I'm going to look at my options. But if we could work things out, obviously I would go and play for OG again. I love the org, love those players, and, hold my hands up, could have dealt with things a little bit better. Thought it was a very mature response. And so, let's say, they say to him, like, well, listen, Nathan, if you want to get back in the team, show us how much you love OG. And he plays terrible and they win, and it's a guaranteed win for them, which, they should win anyway, but doesn't do any harm, does it, to make it? And then they go, right, you can come back in the team now. Now, obviously, that's an inducement to do something that compromises competitive integrity. Now, again, it's a completely fictional scenario. It almost certainly will not happen, but the fact that it could means that we should absolutely be shutting this down. Now, Duncan has pointed out many times that people have said, but this is like a loan agreement in football. That's been the key defense that people have been using, right?
Yes.
So I want to make it abundantly clear that that is not an exact science by any stretch of the imagination. So if I spent, an hour, 2 hours reading about this just before we came on the show, and the reality is that certainly isn't true for global football by any stretch of the imagination. So in football, you have these things called, we used to just call them loan moves when I was coming up. These days, the nomenclature is temporary transfers. And generally, a temporary transfer is when a player isn't getting a game at their squad, at their team, because remember, they have squads of dozens and dozens of players, plus you can bring in people from the under-23s, youth academy, if they're good enough, whatever. And so what you do is to maybe alleviate a little bit of the burden of their salary, to just do right by them and help them develop as a talent, or, they'd rather be playing football than not. They're not in your plans as a manager. You negotiate a temporary transfer to another club. Now, in the English Premier League, if you have a player and you want to loan them out, you cannot loan a player to another team in the Premier League. You cannot do that. It is against the rules. Or rather, you can, but they can't play against you.
Right.
That's against the rules. So you can loan them out, but they cannot play against you. In cup competitions in England, the FA Cup, the League Cup, if they want to play, it's the same rule, but you can come to a special agreement to allow them to play between teams. So that's the rule there. Now, I'll read you this. This is from the official website about global rules relating to parent club restrictions across national leagues. So you have leagues that have regulations that prohibit a lone player playing against their parent club, which includes the English Premier League and the Portuguese Primeira League. In those leagues, clubs have no say about the matter and are restricted to accepting the regulations that no loaned player shall ever face their parent club. On the other hand, this rule is not present in leagues such as La Liga in Spain, Ligue 1 in France. This situation where people were worried about conflict of interest created the use of what you talked about again in your video, Duncan, but probably didn't know the name for them.
Football, yeah.
They're called fear clauses. And what they are is that basically means that if you do play against your parent club, the club who was loaned you must pay a massive fee, which is usually financially unsustainable. Tens of millions just to have this one player. So you leave them out. You alleviate conflict of interest by basically meaning, if you want to have the conflict of interest, you're going to have to pay me for it, motherfucker. So that's how they do it in Spain, France, I think Italy too. Sometimes clubs can use a clause when they negotiate the loan to say you just cannot play against us, and there is no option to pay. So it's totally on the clubs, but in general, you will not see somebody being loaned from a La Liga team being allowed to play against their parent club. It just doesn't happen. And then the other case is Brazil. Brazil have the Confederação Brasileira de Futebol, and they acknowledge that loan clauses regarding a player facing his parent club are a matter for clubs to decide privately. This is a change from how not long ago the rules stated clauses forbidding players from facing their parent clubs were invalid, but due to the proliferation of so many gentlemen's agreements not to play against parent clubs in Brazil, they decided to change the rules. Also in FIFA for global football, they say such agreements are unenforceable, and they basically operate on the gentleman rule principle. But they have a law that says no club shall enter into a contract which enables the counterclubs, and vice versa, or any third party to acquire the ability to influence in employment and transfer related matters, its independence, its policies, or the performance of its teams. So they say any of those gentlemen's agreements don't have to hold true. They have them all null and void. That's FIFA's approach. And then the big one, UEFA, very similar clause. UEFA obviously run the Champions League and the Europa League. They say no club participating in a UEFA club competition may either directly or indirectly have any power whatsoever in the management, administration, and or sporting performance of any other club participating in a UEFA club competition, which is broadly interpreted as meaning these clauses cannot be upheld. The fear clauses that we talked about and other such things. So basically, there is no global rule in football. So to say it happens in football is nonsense, but equally, what does happen, the majority of the time, I'd say in probably 70% of the global leagues, is it is recognized as a bad thing. They arrive at some form of compromise, be it through financial incentives, gentlemen's agreements, or actual rules. So, no, it doesn't happen in football, guys. That is a myth and nonsense.
Then, obviously, there's the angle where now he can play, but just not against OG. Which I think is nonsense in itself. Again, I'm not taking it for football. I'm taking it for first principles. Like, the obvious example is this, Richard. Right? Imagine a world. I'll give you an example I didn't give in my video. Imagine a world, right, where Na'Vi came into a massive amount of VC and they just bought Gambit, right? And so most of their players, they wouldn't put in Na'Vi. Like, they put some of them in Na'Vi, but let's say, for example, I'm just going to pick a random example. Let's say they don't want Axile. Now, I think he's a straight fire player, but he ain't Electronic. You know what? Maybe Electronic does his job in Na'Vi. So they say, you know what? Axile's on our bench, but he's a fucking sick player. Now, let's imagine they give Axile to another team for a tournament, and he helps beat a bunch of other teams, and then he plays against Na'Vi, and that's like, right, you're out of the team now. Now we get an easy game. Cool. We can just rig fucking whole brackets. Yeah. This is madness. And people are cool with this, Rich. Because again, they like MBK, they want him to play. So that's their logic.
Yeah. And look, you know, don't get me wrong. It's like perhaps, you know, your logic, which is my logic too, we don't have to do everything the same.
No,
as
of course not.
Sports. That also could mean maybe we should, not do what they do in other sports, which is try and minimize conflict of interest. I think with all the corruption issues we've had, all of the match fixing issues we've had.
Yes. I can't trust these motherfuckers.
Yeah, but not even that. Let's talk about stuff where historically bad formats have been exploited by sometimes it's more beneficial to lose a game.
Yes.
But guess what? Those teams just mysteriously happen to lose.
Way too often. Way too often.
So you have to understand, guys, the reason why we need to be more shit hot on these integrity issues than mainstream sports is because we literally is still an emerging industry with a lot of money riding on all of this shit. We're about to go through a big fucking reckoning because if law enforcement agencies are looking over at what we do and betting companies are looking over at what we do and things aren't right and they don't come correct, you don't want Uncle Sam or any of the other uncles of world government coming over and basically making broad dictates, passing policies about us. We don't have any lobbyists. Who would the lobbyists be? Probably someone like that fucking guy from the Four Horsemen show who tried to create an esports fucking certificate. Those will be the people that are sitting down with the government, and then who knows what the fuck we're doing. So let's all just get on the same page now and let's agree some common, sensible rules to stop any potential wrongdoing and harm.
Let me give you another hypothetical. Right, let's imagine you can do this for any tournament before it begins, right? As long as you agree before the tournament, if they play us, then he doesn't play in the match, right? Now imagine, Rich, that I'm making extreme examples to show people how this would work. Let's imagine I am lending out, like, by the way, Navi did back in the day in ECS. I'm lending out simple. But here's the scenario you don't know. Because I know that on Monday when they play the match, Simple's playing, but no one else knows that until it's officially announced.
Yeah.
I put a massive bet on the team that's an underdog because they have Simple. And you know what? Simple can single-handedly win the game.
Yeah.
You don't even want that to be in the back of your mind.
Do you remember when he stood in for his mouse sports, wasn't it? Yeah.
He was bodying people.
Yeah.
Because it's simple.
Yeah. So you end up with this situation where there's all sorts of nonsense that can go on around this. I just think first of all, as well, I did notice on MBK's tweet, he said, thanks to Flashpoint and Valve. And Flashpoint, when they were criticized for this, they said, and I think this came from Monte Cristo himself, obviously a colleague. I probably could have took some time to ask him about this, but I was reading football transfer rules. I felt that was a more important fight to have. But he said Valve make all determinations about RMR eligibility. So ultimately, this type of conflict of interest, if that is true, has been, and again, I'm not saying Monty's a liar, but I'm going to take that phraseology with a pinch of salt, I think. The idea that I don't even know if Flashpoint have had a determination from Valve in writing saying, yeah, MBK can play, no problem there. We're fine. I don't know about that, but whatever. The reality is that if they have essentially codified this conflict of interest moving forward, it does raise questions about some of the other stuff they've done in the past. I mean, keep in mind, we had like people who started a tournament, play for one team, leave that team, join another, wholly, not still under contract, completely left, and they were told, you can't play anymore. You can't play in these major qualifiers. You can't play at the major because you represented this team in the major cycle. Why?
Yeah, to Astralis was an example. Yep.
Why? Those guys are fully contracted. They're all in. And so you end up with like these weird, like conflicting, values essentially, where it's like your player, you can have a player who is contracted for an org, play against that org, and everyone goes, yeah, this is fine. You can have a player who's left an organization, goes to represent another team, has every motivation to stick it up the arse of his old fucking employers. He's not allowed to.
How about when MIBR just played against a team one of them owned?
Yeah. I mean, so we're all over the place with this, and I almost feel, you remember when Valve was saying, they were that for all of their tournaments, you had to write down on a sheet all your interests, what you owned, what teams were paying your money, all of the stuff. Any conflict of interest had to be declared. I just feel people can't be asked anymore. I feel the
malaise. Too much hassle.
Yeah, no,
it's why I always think about the E6 stuff. I think people take for granted no one else would do that job. No one wants to do that job. It's like some of the stories Richard does. Who the fuck wants to read up on something for 2 hours just to get an answer on whether this happens? Like, other people will just take it as it comes. And by the way, unfortunately, I do get the vibe. This is why I've always said, look, if shit will get off the pot. If you all just want an entertainment product, if you want WWE, let me decide the playoff matchups, let me decide the seedings, let me kick people out, let me do it all. I'll make it sick for you now. If you want it to be a sport, let's start doing it for real.
Yeah.
And please don't ever cite football, probably the most corrupt sport by definition in the history of humankind, as like some paragon of virtue and morals. Because, by the way, that is a sport where money rules everything.
Yeah,
I bet if you just give the right fucking bribes to the right people, you can get shit done.
Bro, that was what was great about that interview with Declan Hill. Like, Declan Hill was, like, literally, like, you know, wearing a wire, talking to, like, fucking referees and all sorts of shit. And then going, oh, yeah, you can buy me a nice car. What's mad about that is, as well, like, if you remember that fucking, when it happened in Serie A, when the Italian teams, which, by the way, included...
When they got a title taken away from them, dude.
Yeah, included Juventus.
Yeah.
They were. This is out straight fire. This is why Kalina should be everyone's like on the sporting icon list, even though he was a ref, because he was. They caught them on tape saying Pierluigi Kalina's too fair. He can't be bribed, and he's too fair.
That's like something I expect one day. Like, you know, Nicken and Lyom's going to come out like, oh, that player, bloody arsehole, doesn't even take bribes.
Yeah, so exactly. He was bald and most definitely not a fraud. He was a fucking legend.
Probably the most legendary ref of all time.
Yeah.
Looked like Stars, basically.
Yeah, well, he had the same thing. I think he had alopecia.
Would make sense,
as a kid. But I mean, it fucking made him an intimidating figure to look at with that Dr. Death step. But anyway, I mean, look, I'm like you. I just think we keep doing this. We just veer back and forth. But it's not just in competitive integrity decisions. It's in every decision we make. Yes. Some broadcasters don't want core streaming. Some, they would fucking do anything for core streaming. They want more core streaming. They want big core streamers. Even people who don't necessarily have anything to do with CS. They just want the numbers. We say, oh, all the people who represent us on a broadcast have to act super professional at all times, even when they're off a broadcast. Now here's Gowles. We swerve all over the place. Esports has never been a consistent scene because we've never been able to afford to be a consistent scene. We have to take the money when it's on offer. We have to compromise our morals. We have to be past that now. We're 2 decades deep in this shit. We've got fully codified rules, massive startup leagues, VC investment, huge salaries, mainstream legitimacy, our own broadcast platforms. We now have to start basically putting the moral spine through esports, and it must be as rigid as anything else out there. Because if we don't, I'm telling you, it's not going to be a bubble that's going to pop. It's gonna be worse than that. It's gonna be like a fucking bomb going off. If all these people pull out, or if the wrong kind of scandal breaks, think about all the storms we've weathered with the hatches battened down. You know, fucking hold over and over again. Attacks from the mainstream media linking us to school shootings. Attacks from fucking government officials saying games are terrorist training simulators. People saying, You're not an esports enthusiast. You're a gaming addict. Then you get past that, match fixing. Integrity issues, dirty money being laundered. Now it's like, everyone, all these big games developers are like, yeah, we're going to build a totally wicked scene for all you people in America. What's that you sucking over there? Because it looks suspiciously like the Chinese money teat, and you're fucking lecturing everyone in Europe and America about, oh, we've got to do all this ethical stuff and we've got to do it. What about the guy who that teat is attached to? Are we going to lecture them anytime soon about how they need to improve their fucking human rights? No, actually, no, we're not. In fact, Activision Blizzard is going to stay absolutely silent while 4 of the massive Chinese Overwatch teams boycott doing any media work with a Korean player who came out and said, I support Hong Kong and I support Taiwan independence. That's what you're going to do. Don't ever talk to me about fucking principles, you people out there making millions while I'm here earning fucking nothing, and I got the balls to stand up to Chinese bullshit and every other bullshit in this business. And as I said, I know y'all fucking hate me for it. I'm the cunt, aren't I? I'm the party pooper. Santa Claus isn't real. Hey, don't worry, guys. We can do better. We can do better than this in America. Let's start there. Let's start with the money, shall we? No, not interested in that. I wonder why. Principles in esports? Nah, never happening. Not in my lifetime.
That is the worst part about it, is the vibe when you bring up these terms is like, why can't you just bloody let us have anything? It's like, oh, fucking hell, I'm trying to make it better. You daft cunt. Did you not see all the cheating? Everyone was cheating who could cheat. I'm trying to stop that. Nah, but it wouldn't happen, Thorin. They wouldn't do that. Hunden wouldn't do that. He's a good guy. Fucking everyone wouldn't do it by your guys' logic. That's why, in a fucked up sense, I know it's perverse, I almost hoped Zonic was embroiled in that, just so it would crack this image that these aren't humans. You know what I mean?
I know. Yeah,
I wanted to show that the most beloved coach maybe would do it, because loads of people who were super legit did. Obviously, I don't in that specific case, but I'm giving the extreme example here.
No,
like, those people can do it. We have to stop them all being able to do it.
Think about the fools that, and again, I know it's a really overused example, but think about the fools that went and publicly defended Lance Armstrong over and over and over again, despite all the evidence, despite all the testimony, despite common sense telling you that a fucking brain cancer survivor, not just beating the cancer because he's unbelievably fit, but being one of the greatest athletes on planet Earth, one of the fittest people. This cannot be achieved naturally. We're not built for that. Something had to be up the whole time. And don't get me wrong, like, I'm not saying, he couldn't have been an inspiration and done stuff, but it would have been amazing if he could have won a local cycling contest after that, or ran a marathon after that. Most people don't get better, let alone get back on a bike and become the best cyclist in the world. You only had to sit there and just do a bit of critical thinking to think, yeah, with this mountain of evidence, plus like what my brain tells me, there's something wrong here. But there were so many fools who wanted to believe, and what they say, well, why would he do it? He would never do it. Look,
why would he risk his whole reputation?
Yeah, why would he risk his reputation?
Yeah.
I know, it's like you guys got.
He makes millions.
Yeah, exactly. And this is why I'm saying, because I know this will end up on Vac Sucks now. Richard Lewis has epiphany and realizes whole cheating scene.
It was cheating
the whole
all
pro
along.
scene was cheating all along. No, not saying that. But one or two players probably are. Like, I've always maintained that one or two probably are. One or two probably think they've got a system and will probably get away with it. Don't know who the fuck they would be. The coaches saw an opportunity and fucking exploited it for years. And that's before we even get into, what graphics settings can I change? Yep. What players deliberately having a certain type of graphics card, never updating to the best one. Like, because, just so happens to make smokes disappear. Yep. All the commands you can put in your config. They'll go to the line every time. And a few of them will cross it. So I'm just telling everybody, like, if the online era has taught you anything, it should be that don't be blind and trusting just because someone tweets nice things. I know we all love Twitter. I know we all think Twitter is the yardstick of a personality because everyone in this day and age is a brainwashed cretin. But the reality is, just because they've got the PR game down and fucking pander to you, right, doesn't mean they then won't go and break rules. In fact, very often, the opposite. You fly, what's that line from fucking Lord of the Rings when he meets Aragorn for the first time and he says something along the lines of, I thought if you were trying to like fuck me over, I think you would look fairer and feel fouler, whereas you look fouler and feel fairer or something.
Okay.
So in other words, you can't just judge things on its face. And so I think at the end of the day, we've got a real problem with that in esports. There's a lot of naive kids that honestly think the worst won't happen. And I keep telling people, CS especially, we're a couple of scandals away from just cratering. Right, anyway, let's that's that. I don't think there's any other, have we missed anything out? I'm trying to think. Probably something, whatever. It can go into the next show. I do want to just say this because let's have a bit of brevity. Let's have something to laugh about. This.
Come on,
mate. You'll appreciate this. Apart from the fact, what I always love is how everyone's trying to track down now what secret Reddit account I'm on, but it's always like fucking super obvious because I'm not hiding it. I'm only just hiding it from Reddit staff because they've got some mad thing about me. Like I show it on fucking stream all the time. Everyone knows who the fuck I am. Rip to a real one, by the way. They got me. The feds got me. Okay. But I'm back. Shout out to sponsor NordVPN.
All I'll say is this. Right? And here's the thing, Richard. Unlike other people, I mean, listen, people don't know this. I've said it, but it's one of those stories that goes by the by. A long time ago, it was like over 15 years ago now, I actually did a bunch of ghostwriting under another person's name, a real person.
Oh, yeah.
And I did a whole load of articles, right? And what was great, by the way, was one of the things I really did enjoy is he was having like other pros message him and just go like, you know what? Normally us pros don't like written articles, but this is, you can tell you're a pro. And the whole time it was me, the person where, by the way, if it was under my own name, they'd be like,
along,
if it had really been me who'd posted on my name, the same pro would have been like, you don't know what you're talking about. So what was brilliant was I sort of even got to test that they're all full of shit.
Yeah,
no, better than
that.
that. When I did this, right, one of the things I purposely did though, so that I could never get caught, is I pretended I was like fucking Daniel Day-Lewis. I took on the character. I even changed my punctuation. I didn't use any of the same click. Now, here's the thing, right? Others won't get this because they don't have the same eye for text. You have to be in the industry to know how mechanisms, how things work. Richard, I never said it to you because I just thought, fuck it, I know what he's doing there. I knew that account from the beginning because it basically was the same way you would actually write a tweet or you would say something on the show. But the reason why this is funny is all I'm going to say is this, right? I'm not going to say the specific thing, but I'll just put it this way. You know our boy Nell?
Yeah.
People can go look this up. Nell didn't know he was replying to Richard and was telling Richard that Richard knows nothing about how the industry works and how journalism works and that he doesn't know anything about him. And it was hilarious. And you know, the back and forth, I almost laughed myself silly. I almost laughed myself silly because
that was the bad thing. He was claiming to know the inner workings of HLTV. I was like, well, you don't even work for them, you mad cunt.
It's so funny.
And he was going, no, but I mean, I have an understanding of journalism. Yeah, I know nothing then, mate. Like, yeah, you got me.
That's one of the all time. I was like a punk or something, mate.
Yeah, you have done me. Like, you have done me. But anyway, so look, back once again with the Renegade Master, and I was on there and I was looking, mate. There was something so absolutely outrageous.
Oh, come on, man. Where's this going?
So obviously the summit's coming up. They've got qualifiers going on, and there is an open qualifier that all teams could enter, and then there's going to be a closed qualifier, which will include the teams that won the open qualifier. And so the team, one of the teams that won was Plano, right?
Old favourites. Yeah, love them. By the way, I love how that story gets better and better every time. I almost can't believe how good it's getting at this point in time. The only way to be better now is if they had to retire because they had no money left to smell like. Man, it's getting silly, isn't it?
What's fucking unreal about this is though, like, I don't think there has ever been a worse named team in the history of esports, because to call yourself the plan, all you have to do is have a plan.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, exactly.
That's all you had to do. And, mate, it's a shit show. Yeah. They don't have a plan.
They don't even have that classic thing from the advert in our youth. Like, it does exactly what it says on the tin. You don't even have a plan. Yeah. The one thing you don't have is a plan.
After they beat Triumph, they put that out. And it's them as the Peaky Blinders, a criminal enterprise.
It's almost. Right? I've got another one as well that's like this. Keep going, yeah.
Yeah, a criminal enterprise. And there you go. Nos temos plano. So anyway, great stuff. This was like I think they retweeted it. I think it was a fan made bit of content. But anyway, so what I don't understand though is like, why would anyone celebrate that result against Triumph? Like, everyone was going fucking nuts over it. They were like, oh yeah, Plano, it's amazing. I actually watched the game. They were dog shit. And when you consider, right, Triumph are still essentially at their core just an ESEA team. Yes. Like, no disrespect to them. But there was like a 16-13 and like an overtime game. Plano is like angling, like, oh, hire us, big orgs, like they've got international season players, fucking, people who played at majors.
Kenji's in a major final.
Yeah, major finals. And yet here they are, basically like struggling against the SEA teams. How's this in any way part of the plan? Like, it's not, is it? And the fans are fucking hyping them up. They are going to get annihilated if they play like that against even like the 25th best team in the world. They will get absolutely battered. It's ridiculous how bad they were. So no Plano, but all the fans are hyping them up. So let's see what they can do in the closed qualifier. I understand, by the way, some of those games are going to be open IP. I might grab a few. Maybe me, you, Sam. Maybe we watch All Plano. Who knows? So anyway, we'll move on to viewer, rather patron questions. Let's go through. Alice with the first question: if Richard actually got Nicola Nyholm onto a By the Numbers, would you both entertain the idea of a good cop, bad cop division of roles for the sake of trying to pry some truth out of the man? I mean, listen, I personally, I'll say this, even people I don't like, when I have them in a podcast setting, when I have them in an interview setting, and this has happened a lot of times in my career, I go in and the interview is good faith. I don't want to be Kathy Newman. That is not something I aspire to, where I go in and think every question's going to be a gotcha. I'm not going to listen to their answers. If they say something that's vague, I'm going to immediately reach for the most uncharitable interpretation. The reality is that there might be some aspect like Nicola Nyholm's character or plan I'm missing. He might be a really cool guy. It might just be that because he likes making money, he has to have this other like cuntish aspect to him. I'll give him the benefit. I would always give him the benefit to explain himself in his own words, and I would ask him the questions that would enable him to do that, and they wouldn't be traps or gotchas. Now, if he said anything contradictory or stupid, my mind's quick enough. I'll catch it and I'll point it out, because equally, I'm not here to fucking suck somebody's dick and make them look great if they're not great. And I'm not just going to do layup and powder puff questions. That's not what you get if you sit down with me. So at the end of the day, I mean, I don't even know if we need to do good cop, bad cop, because the funny thing is me and Duncan are both simultaneously, well, good cop, bad cop, and fucking worst cop you've ever met. So, you know, it can go any way you want. But I mean, at the end of the day, I'd happily hear him out. I'd like to know how he goes from wanting to start a player union and trying to get Fallen and other top names on board with that, to creating a league where they own all the intellectual property, but wanted to work in partnership with players so they had equity. I want to know how you go from that, which sounds noble and better in some ways than some of the things we've built, to where you're at now. And how it ended up. That would be my big question to him. Because it seems that when you came on the scene, it could have been a ruse. But again, I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. Tell me how you go from that and end up where you're at here, where everything you do seems to be part of some sort of, you know, controlling, manipulative game plan.
Put it this way, one thing I will actually give the Astralis org credit for in relation to me is, even though they did fuck with me over that blast stuff, it seems, and they certainly, Nicola and I himself has said stuff, I will give them this mild piece of credit where there's one level they do get it, Richard, which is, you know what? Say I ask for an Astralis or an Origin player from our League of Legends podcast. They never say no. They don't turn it down. They could do that, of course. I couldn't ask for TSM to have a player. They would never give me it, even if I asked them. But here's the thing, though. So on that level, they get it, right? They get that it's still a business. It's still media. You know what? They still benefit from being in my content. Here's the problem, though. I do draw the line, and Nicola Nyholm's on the other side of it when it comes to doing an interview, though. Because here's the problem. Nicola Nyholm has publicly said I am a liar and spread that ridiculous behind-the-scenes rumor that, like, I'm unstable. Like, listen, mate, you don't do that. Like, yeah, if you want to sort that out, you do a similar public apology like that, then maybe we can talk. Because here's the other thing, by the way. He wouldn't get it because he's too stupid to. But if someone like him actually did do an interview with us, and as you say, we would be harsh but fair, he'd come off 10 times better to our audience. If he doesn't do it, we speak for him. Now he's going to come off terrible. So people I know love to do that. Yeah, you're holding him hostage. I'm not, because I never actually said that as like a blackmail term. I'm going to say it no matter what. I'm going to give my thoughts. The question is, if you're smart, you do what Reginald, it was actually Lena who set it up 4 years ago, did, which is go, he's going to give his opinion anyway, so why don't I get to have my say on his content and on his platform? That's actually a smart, shrewd man's way to do it. I just feel like Nicola Nyholm's too far gone. And as I say, in my case, it's a rule I made a couple of years ago. I'm not doing the insult me massively in public, clown me, and then private or in a bar apology and a handshake and I'm sorry. You do it, whatever format and scale you do the insult and the lie about, you then do your apology on the same scale. So if he does that, you know what? I tell you what, if he apologizes publicly to me like that, I bet we could have one of the highest fucking viewed episodes of By the Numbers ever. I'm sure it'd be fucking fire. And you know what? Here's the other thing people like that don't get. yeah, we can push them around and show they're showing some bullshit. But because we're polite and there's a level of professionalism in an interview, you have a lot more leeway in an interview than you would when we're talking on a talk show now. Like, if you say at the end of the day, well, eventually I'm going to have to say, look, we've gone as far as we can on that point. We're going to go to the next point. You get to have your say, mate. And you can actually make up some kind of bullshit on your angles anyway. You get away with it a little bit. So that's why, in my opinion, I said it on Twitter the other day, CSGO people don't get it. Nico doesn't get it. A whole bunch of them. Device doesn't get it. We would have been, essentially, in terms of what we could have done for them, we could have been their best friends in terms of how we could have reclaimed some of the reputation they pissed against the wall, quite frankly.
No, but I mean, also, just as a final point on this, you know, at the end of the day, you know, I'll like, if I say something on the show and someone has a comment about it, I consider it an ethical obligation of me to, if they reach out, I don't have to change my mind. I don't have to say the words you want me to say, and I will find it personally insulting if you think so little of me, you make that demand. But if you want to come on or do a pre-recorded segment, or, you know, answer some questions, or if you want me to update some information about it, by all means, the door will always be open.
Remember when we had that episode, by the way, speaking of which, here's how a conflict of interest works, dickhead. Even though we're just doing a YouTube show with webcams and there's no like FIFA to stop us, I did not appear on the episode of By the Numbers. One of them, do you remember? It was the one where fucking Carmack, one of my worst enemies in esports, and fucking the flying DJ, a guy where the most interesting thing about him is this shit fucking alias he has on Twitter, came on and they just gave all their shit about ESL. And guess what? I wasn't there to go liar, he's lying, like, because that would have been, I couldn't simultaneously be a co-host and be against them in business. So I sat that one out.
Exactly. And that's so yeah.
We can even do that, by the way. If it's me, that's the problem. Come on the show, just do a Nicola.
I don't think it's you the problem. I think Nicola Naim definitely hates me more than you because I've called him a cunt to his face. So
the difference is he just seems to only like go at me publicly. And I think that's what people don't know. I actually think this is mad, right? Especially before the Flashpoint. Actually, he hates Richard way more than me. Yeah. I think he just sees me as a guy scoring points of him and dunking on him or whatever, you know.
Still to this day, trying to fucking gaslight me about sending that email to E-League when I fucking saw it. It's like, you know, so my lying eyes again, at it again. You know.
Oh, by the way, he has that thing that I remember they described in this mega biography of Steve Jobs, call it the reality distortion field, where they're so good at lying to people. They think they can just do it. They think they can just bend reality. Like, no, I didn't do it. Richard, I would never do it. I've sort of respected your work. Like, listen, mate, I've seen the evidence. No, that's been taken completely out of it. Understanding contact.
It's one of them. It was one of them. And
by the way, did you see Device? I forgot this. This is other comedy we have to.
Oh, yeah, go on. What's that?
Device did that thing where it was like, I think it was through his agents or something. It was like, I'm so disappointed with the media's taken my comments and blown them. But he did a D-man. They've taken my comments and reported them exactly as I said them, and now people are upset.
I know. Here's the thing on that Device point. This is why them fucking up this interview. They haven't done their client any favors there at all, because clearly it's not the media that have fucked this up. No. I'm amazed. By the way, considering that press conference was just literally like, yes, Mr. Device, yes, Mr. NIP.
You sure look good in those NIP colours, Mr. Device. Yeah. Mr. Device, hey, who do you think you're gonna win the major, sir?
Big, mental in it, right? You know, the point is, right? Like, you know, Zonic was upset. Glaive was upset. You know, Zonic, obviously, like, think about this, by the way. Think about everything Zonic went through and all the work he put into that team and, you know, working through personal bereavements, one of the worst bereavements you can have in your life. And fucking, you know, he's done all of that. And then the first thing Device says on a vlog, NIP are 5 steps ahead of Astralis. The greatest ever core to play the game, of which he was a part, the greatest ever team, the greatest ever coach, people who elevated the game to a level nobody thought previously. Nip are 5 steps ahead of thee. It just doesn't even hold up, does it? It was, and like, I know...
And he's just fucking one tier.
I know you say throwaway things, but you have got to understand when cunts are walking around with a camera, your new org is not going to do you any favors there.
Yeah, never completely dropped him in it as well, haven't they? They're cool guys, them, aren't
They're not going to do you any favors because, let me tell you, their content team wants straight fire content. And hey, you're a ninja now, so it doesn't matter, right? Doesn't matter if on the way out you cause some sore feelings to Glaive or Zonic. And so they've let you carry that can. You should, that's immediately you're off to a bad start there. And
you're a ninja, Devi.
Yeah, exactly. As if you've done Hogwarts on me, you mad cunt. So anyway, yeah, look, listen, I'll fully say, like, he needed to sit down with an experienced journalist to get his version out. Not, by the way, as they wanted to do. That's the one thing that was off the table to talk about. That's stupid. That's the first thing you should be talking about.
I know.
And I told them that. I said, listen, that's the... And they said, well, we could prepare... We've got a statement prepared if you do ask. All right, great. Let's do that then. Let's do the prepared statement. It can only be better than the clusterfuck on the... So, yeah, fuck them. Anyway, next question. Watch Doge. This is a quick one. Is it cannibalism when Boris Johnson, a well-known pig-human hybrid, eats a Greggs sausage roll? I'm going to say there's probably more human content in the Greggs sausage roll than there is in Boris Johnson. That's my personal belief.
By the way, this is one thing I've never understood, is how can people not understand? Like, it's the same with those coaches that cheated, right? It's not. You have utterly failed basic logic if your takeaway was, so they were the worst cunts of all time after all. No, it was both, you moron. They both did something wrong and were the cool guys that they always were. Hunden never became like the worst person ever. He just did something ethically questionable. He is still a cool guy. So one thing I've never
Duncan's
understood...
not linking this to Boris Johnson.
I'm about to.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know it.
Oh,
that's the thing. I don't follow UK politics, right? And I also personally don't believe that actually a lot of those people directly decide things. Like, I don't know why we're still in the childish position where they think that, like, the leader of the company is a king and he decides everything. So I personally think they're very silly. I think it's like a house of cards. I think there's all sorts of backbench stuff, and they're all like running things, and they have the people that own them and have the money you put in. So here's the problem. If you don't actually think Boris Johnson's like funny, that he has like he actually seems, in terms of personality, he's like one of the more entertaining British.
Oh, he was funny when he wrecked that kid at a charity event. Yeah, that was funny.
It seems like, put it this way, I know everyone else loves this angle, but they don't do it now for some reason. If you had to pick a politician to have a beer with, he'd be in my top 5 from the UK. The rest of them are just shit.
I mean, this is the problem, though, isn't it? Like, British politicians are fucking trash.
They're just boring as fuck. People don't get it. We don't have entertaining ones like that. It's rare we get one.
See, my problem with that is, right, like, I don't know. I'm a bit too mired in the fucking class struggle, I think, mate. Like, despite people thinking, you know, oh, he's a fucking conservative or a right-winger, like, you know, if I ever fucking... I don't know. John Smith dying was a fucking big moment.
That was the end for you, the watershed moment.
Well, because, yeah, Blair comes in and he's another one of these public schoolboy cunts. Well, I mean, not just that. He was, like, grotesquely evil. Or he was, you know, he was just a conservative that wore a red tie. And he took us into a bullshit war and he destroyed the fucking NHS and he did all of that nonsense. By the way, also propped up by another bunch of greedy bastards and lunatics. Fuck Gordon Brown, all of them cunts. So... there hasn't been a Labour Party in Britain for so fucking long. I don't even know what my allegiance is. All I know is I look over at the Tories and I see all the Etonian clones and the fucking pig-human hybrids and the fucking, you know, lunatics. Yeah, could I have a beer with these people? I mean, fucking hell, David Cameron stuck his knob in a dead pig's head. He's obviously a gnarly cunt when he's had a few pints in him. Probably would be straight banter. Boris Johnson... You know, he was a dickhead when he was on fucking Have I Got News For You? But yeah, I could sit down and have a pint with that cunt. But equally, they are also cunts. So, I don't know, we need a political epiphany in the UK. But when I was active in politics in the UK, at least you always had a sort of semi-viable third party.
Yes.
You know,
well, the problem is the Liberal Democrats never came back from that coalition. Because if people don't understand, even
coalition wrecked them.
That is the antithesis, doing a coalition with the Conservatives, of what your party represents. How are you going to go with the party that was basically the concept, like, it's all about education and like that? Join with the ones in the upper class. I'm out. Get out.
I know. My face. So, you know, you end up with, like, because we're not like, I mean, by the way, I laugh all the time when I see Americans talking about their two-party system. It ain't really a two-party system right now, is it? They don't even
get it, though. Even if it was, Rich, like, the point is... It's not the number of the parties, it's the premise of how they all controlled. The point is you can have 5 that are controlled by one, just like 2. It just means you just get more. Basically, the joke is, instead of having Coke and Pepsi, you can also have Sprite and Fanta and Dr. Pepper. They're all owned by the 2 companies still.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I mean, like, I don't know. I mean, like, for me, like, I just think there's a lot of shit going on with Boris Johnson right now as well, where, you know, it looks like he's going to have done some dodgy stuff with funds, public funds, and used it for personal enrichment.
No doubt that's what they all do in it.
Yeah, they do all do it, but equally, that for me is one of the mortal sins. For
it is. The joke of that is they're all doing it, but you can't get caught. If you get caught, we have to kick you out, of course.
Yeah.
It goes without saying.
And it's just. I don't know how long. It probably never happened as long as I'm alive. Tory sleaze has been along. It's not a media phenomenon, by the way. It's just inherent in the party that they will always bend the rules. There's always nepotism. Every time there's a crisis, it's a big fat contract for their companies. They did it with the Olympics, 0-hour contracts. Or it's like Tories can't fucking help themselves. It's legitimately, it's like what I said about Moore. You could hold up a pie in front of Boris Johnson and all his Etonian cunt friends, put it round the back, strain, shit in it, put a lid on it, and you go, I still want a slice of that. Any pie, any pie going, the Tories want to be in it. So,
you're actually friends with Moore as well.
Yeah, no,
that's just the most unreasonable analogy to give about a friend going.
Listen, mate. I tell the truth. Tell the truth, but tell the truth, but also gotta stand my voice. But if you're doing fucked up shit, I'm gonna call you out on it.
I know.
So anyway, I don't know, but yeah, basically, I do believe that would be an act of cannibalism. Res Chi, with Tom Wilson's recent antics, cross-checking a guy's neck, then punching him while he's down on the ice. So already, this is a hockey thing, right, isn't it? He then judo flipped another player headfirst and only got a $5,000 fine to his $5.1 million salary. Is it safe to say the NHL is on par with Riot Games? They're not bad. He brought it back at the end. I didn't even hear about this. I know, I'm sure with Davey would have something to say. But yeah, I don't watch hockey. I've never watched hockey, and hockey's the one sport. Ice hockey, this is. It's the one sport I wish I could appreciate because it's got everything I like. Fighting, love that. According to journalists, and DreamHack, love that. It's got grace, poise, balance, skill, end-to-end action. But yeah, I can't get into it for some reason. I don't know why. So,
the real joke there is that just shows you what the sport is like. Basically, that's like the equivalent of why people like Elon Musk can't. It's why I told Lopez he can't film it. Because think about it, right? If he does something allegedly that makes him $200 million, they give him a $20 million fine. Yeah. That's not really a disincentive, is it? That's just called, you have to be really rich to do that crime. It's like, there's that comment that someone once said, anytime something's not illegal, but it's a fine, it's just against, essentially, only poor people can't do it.
Yeah, of course.
I know people where they just straight up, because they just have money like that, they would just be like, yeah, I'd smoke in my hotel room. I go, isn't there a smoke ticket? He goes, yeah, I'll just pay the $400.
Yeah.
All right then, sound.
Exactly.
I know what game we're playing now, don't I? Rich man game.
Let's have a look. I've got a poem I need to read through. It's Carv, who has said, I have now set up all my questions is a poetry corner.
This looks all right. I don't think there's anything.
Yeah, okay. Olof's career teetered on the brink. Coldzera family requests you rethink. He came back at Blast Spring and played straight fire. Coldzera family announces you will retire.
It's kind of like a Dr. Seuss vibe I'm getting so far. Keep going.
It's good, yeah. Except then we'd have to cancel it. Streaming Valorant looks like his choice. A chance for Riot to capture his voice. He was a top player, but how long since? Retired for good now, or is he like Vince?
I like the end at least. Just completely unnecessarily bringing Vince into the equation again. Something that he's repeatedly said he doesn't want to bring
wait a minute. For fuck's sake, I never even fucking retired. You're fucking about cunts, why you fucking gotta keep harping on about it? Next you know, you'll be tweeting shit pictures at me and that, you fucking can't handle it, Anyway. With Olof being in free, there's a question underneath the poll. With Olof being in free agency for a while now, is this the last we've seen of him in CSGO, and what will be his legacy in the game? Is it similar to the RPK scenario mentioned on the previous episode, where it would just be too weird seeing him playing Valorant, aka Babby's first FPS?
I can actually give some info on this, because basically, again, I can't say the specifics, but I essentially, just because I wanted to be able to potentially put the word out on shows like this, I said to him basically, is there a world, do you still want to play CSGO, basically? And what he sort of told me, the gist was, if it's the right team, maybe I would. So it ain't off the table. It's not a retirement as far as I know yet. Doesn't mean he ever will, because that usually implies, by the way, he probably wants a really good fucking team, which when you're in his situation, you don't tend to get, like Guardians finding out. But I get the sense, yeah, he's maybe not totally done. Like, as you saw, I think that last phase run, if anything, made him sort of think, oh, maybe I'll give us another go. He had his time off.
Yeah. I mean, look, for me, I'd like him to maybe come back and mix it up with like a younger team or something like that. I don't want him to get like some sort of big money move or high pressure move or high spotlight move, because I don't think he can keep up with it anymore. I think he had a great swan song with FaZe, but let's be real, the fucking 12 months before that were fucking diabolical. And at the end of the day, he's a super cool guy, one of the greatest players to ever touch the game. You know, playing on a couple of shit teams now isn't going to affect his legacy too much, just because of the unbelievable highs he had. If he hadn't achieved what he had, maybe it would. But, you know, if he does want to go over to Valorant, I can't imagine he's going to struggle. I can't imagine he would struggle at that game. Although, I just want to say, we are starting to see the shitters are getting banged out over there already. Like, Cutler had to retire. Well, not retire, but he's been benched by TSM and stuff there. So, I'm just saying, the reckoning's coming. There's kids you've never heard of who were fucking sick at that game, and all the boomers that have had the first year all to themselves. You're getting pressed now. That's just how that works.
By the way, I'll even give you a little anecdote about Olof, because he is actually one of the most sound superstar players to ever play CSGO. When I was going to do that video where I basically ripped his stats apart, says everyone worships stats, and showed, like, look, he's not good right now. You're just saying he is because of how he's Olof. I told him beforehand, not only am I doing this video, mate, which I'm going to absolutely tear you apart, I'm going to show that, like, you're not a good player anymore, but I even said, you know what, since I'm going to do it, and I've always respected you, we've had a good relationship, I'll even tell you right now the tips that I'll actually say in the video. Like, if you want to, I would suggest maybe like study X player and Y player, study how they play their support position. I said, commit yourself. If you want to be a player and you're going to be in a support position, do these things so you can be. He basically told me, the gist was like, I get it, don't worry about me, mate, thanks for the message.
Yeah.
Sound, there you go. Yeah. Didn't take any offense and say, why would you do that? Nothing, just took it on the chin. And by the way, you get the vibe, he knew he was playing bad. He's not an idiot. He's one of those guys who has he has an ego, but only in as much as like he's a good player. He actually has a fucking mentality of like, yeah, no, I'm not the best.
Yeah, no, he was always a good guy whenever I talked to him as well. So, you know, power to him, whatever he does. And, you know, I think, like, there's a lot of players, that are, like, the European players, by the way, like, the difference between being washed up in NA and washed up in Europe is fucking staggering. So, like, put it this way, like, Olof can go and play Valorant and fucking dominate. Tells you all you need to know. Scream is like the best player in the world. Like, well, what best player in Europe, certainly.
If this was a few years ago as well, when all the NA teams had like average level, he could also have been an NA team if he wanted, obviously. Like, he could have been, he could have been in the last Envy lineup. Of course, he could be one of the best players in the team.
Yeah. So, I mean, at the end of the day, Olof will crush it if he wants to go there. Chingu, now that most people believe Astralis is the greatest of all time, what is the most important thing Astralis has taught teams about CSGO? There's so many jokes. Let's keep it.
The real answer is obviously like utility usage.
Yeah.
Because that's also shit where, remember, it was in the game. Just none of us thought to use it in that way. Like, they basically revolutionized the game.
Yeah, I mean, they took a real data-driven approach to it as well, where it was like, they, were measuring like damage output and stuff, which I don't know whether teams were doing that at the time. It wasn't like, as hard as the teams went, even the truly great teams and competitive teams, you learned smokes, you learned lineups, you learned timings, when to throw them, etc. That was considered good. When to use mollies, protect the site, get people out of a corner, all this stuff. It was all good, right? It was all very good and very high level. This was a data-driven approach where they were like, look, we had opponents blind for X amount of time. We did X amount of damage from HE nades. That isn't good enough. We can raise that. We'll go and we'll jump on a server and we'll learn some angles. We did X amount of damage from Molotovs. Why aren't we doing more? Is that something we need to work on? They were just the masters of it. Smoke lineups. There's a reason you see Glaive fucking just banging people. There's a reason, by the way, so many people were accusing them of using that smoke bug for fucking ages. Zipnix, Glaive, all of that. It's just, they just know, like from unbelievable amounts of practice on the server.
When Nico essentially implies you're cheating online against him, you're probably fucking amazing at whatever you're doing. Because what he's actually saying there, he's just so naive and understand is, I can't understand what you're doing, so it must be cheating.
Yeah. So, at the end of the day, I think what you have to... There's two things you really learn from the Astralis era, and that is that, even in a craft, even in a pursuit where you think the bar has been set, there's always an extra inch to be grabbed. There's always an extra angle you can take. If you're willing to put in the hard work and find out what that is, it will pay dividends. You know, when all, like, I say Astralis is over now as we know it. I think there'll be more people leaving. It's going to break apart and fall apart. You know, but at the end of the day, what a gift they've given the game for 4 years through their unbelievable like hard work and labor and Zonic too. So, you know, at the end of the day, that's the lesson. Like, hard work pays off, I guess. They prove it almost more than anyone else. NA, pay attention. Oh, no, there is no NA. Never mind. A Pounder. Besides the Horsemen, which means me, Duncan, Monty, who is the most lied about person in esports?
Ooh, that's a tough one.
That's a good question.
Because there's a lot of people where it's
Mr.
like
Pounder.
they're just in the middle, you know, like there's a lot of shit that people don't know about them, blah, blah, blah. I'm trying to think, who could it be for that?
Yeah, I'm trying to
Because those
think.
would have been the obvious candidates. Like, I'll give you an example. Before we were doing this, where's the caveat? Like, people don't know, especially because of how he left with Riot just banning him, where people just supported that. And then obviously, like, leaving Overwatch. The amount of lies both communities said about Monty is fucking unreal, mate.
Oh,
like,
for sure.
Because he's also not the sort of guy who, like, sort of is so vociferously defends himself, so he just sort of took someone on the chin. I'm trying to think who else it could be. I think it's got to be... I think the obvious example now would be, like, Pimp.
Yeah,
the idea he's the most toxic piece of shit ever. Like, I see the clips they're talking about, Richard. I'm like, you grow the fuck up. Grow the fuck up. Like, by the way, I'm not talking about in the clip. I'm talking about the person mouthing over the clip. Like, he's saying the most... When he says it, you guys don't know. He talk like, oh my God, he insulted us. Like, get a fucking grip.
I got sent one of them. Someone sent me this going, how can you defend this behavior? You always speak highly of him. How can you defend this? And I watched the clip. And the clip was him saying... he was going, he was like doing his voice like he does, you know, and it was after a game. And he was going, these people, they come here and they talk shit. I think what happened was he'd lost the game to like a 5-stack, and they came in the chat and were like flaming him. And he was going, the people that do this thing, they are shit. They will always be shit. They are never going to be good. They're never going to be a streamer. They're just losers. And because they are losers, all their selection processes in life are fucked. They choose a girlfriend. She is a loser. They are all shit. And he went on this like...
This is fire.
Yeah. And I'm just going there like, yeah, fucking preach.
Killing it, yeah.
Dude, I say shit like that to my fucking fans. What you talking about? Sometimes you have to just drop the hammer, like, you know what I mean? Let them know what time it is. And so, like, I was watching that and thinking, that's brilliant. Not only do I defend it, I wish I thought to say that. Like, what a mad thing. Oh, your selection process is off. He's not about to talk about the game, Duncan. He's about to talk about your missus. Like, you know, fucking... Yeah, and so you pick a horrible girlfriend. She's a loser. You're both losers. You have kids one day. They are loser kids. Disgusting loser children and bottom of the class at school. It's like, yeah, this is brilliant.
Who are these people, by the way, who literally go, he's talking about losing... Yeah, he's talking about me. That's me he's talking about. I've never understood that. It's like in CS. Everyone will relate to this. The maddest phenomenon in CS is when there's one guy on their team with 40 kills who is Ferrari peeking everyone in the head with one bullet. And you go, fuck off, dickhead, cheating. And the guy with 2 kills on their team goes, you talking to me? Who's he talking to?
I know. I hate that. Like,
is there a vegetable on the other end of the fucking line? Like, what is this? What is this?
But it's like that Ricky Gervais bit in it when he says, like, you know, guitar lessons, and you ring him up. You go, I don't want guitar lessons. It's not for you, is it, you dickhead? Yeah, no, it's mental. Like, it's mental on people.
I think Pimp's a good shout.
Yeah. All right, whatever. Yeah, we'll do him. It's not him, but it's not him. But we'll do.
Do you have a recommendation? I can't.
Well, no, because it's hard. Because then you get into like, what is a lie? And I'm not philosophical. Okay. What is a lie? Yeah. What I mean is, Bill like, Clinton. you know.
Well, what is the word lie really mean?
What does it mean? When I said I did not have sexual relations, what is a sexual relation? You can't just sophist yourself through it, can you? But no, anyway. You know, there are some people I've heard stories about which I believe to be untrue, patently untrue, but then like you come across people who repeat them, and they're repeating it secondhand, are they liars, were they first-hand witnesses, do they understand it? You know, there's all sorts of stuff. And then there's stuff where it's like, you know it has an element of truth, but then it's massively embellished and overblown. And so you get into this weird area. I mean, listen, I've heard a lot of like, and I know we're not talking at the moment, and maybe one day that'll all be rectified. I've heard a lot of bullshit about Scoots, and I know it's bullshit.
Okay, fair enough.
I know it's bullshit. Like, a lot of these team owners are told lies about him, and they're out and out lies. And I know that it's out and out lies. And he's a guy who, you know, because of his win, he's brash. He's another guy who doesn't get the benefit of the doubt from the community. Remember when he came out, he was one of the first voices to speak out against gambling and says, look, the skins gambling is going to be a problem. You need to listen to me. Even I didn't listen. I said, Scott, I think you're just fucking, you know, because I'm thinking of it like Panini stickers or something. I'm not thinking of it like cryptocurrency, which is what it was. I didn't know cryptocurrency wasn't even really a thing then. So anyway, you know, like at that time, the whole community fucking turned on him, said he must have a vested interest. He's anti-gambling. He's a prude. He's being paid off by someone. You know, like, oh, he's a Valve stooge. Oh, that's mad fucking shit. Like, you pick a fucking narrative. Sometimes they would be diametrically opposed. They couldn't be true at the same time. So Scott went through a really rough time there because he went from being like a beloved elder statesman in the community, which was a position that was right. It wasn't given to him. It was something that he'd earned through years of work in various roles and being a diligent protector and, you know, a watchman of the game. And it was really hard for him to kind of claw a lot of that good faith back. And, you know, going through my own kind of crucible myself with that. It's on my mind. You think about stuff like that, like the prevailing sentiment that Scott was inducted in one of the first inductees in the Esports Hall of Fame, and rightly so. Nobody should ever take that away from him. And that was before we knew what the CSPPA was going to be like, and you know, we're going to disagree about that, and that's fine. It's fine for me. But again, I see people now. Scoots has turned evil. It's like, no, he right. My position is the CSPPA is a shakedown. The big story we missed for this podcast was Mads Åland has left. We'll pick it up next time.
We'll do it on the next one, yeah.
You know, for me, it's a shakedown and it's not looking after its players. But Scott's right in the sense, yeah, team owners definitely don't want a union, do they? And they're the ones that are saying the CSPPA is fucking
he can be right about that, of course.
Yeah.
Just because they don't do it the right way, it doesn't mean the premise isn't correct, yeah.
No, but equally, who's to say I haven't been? I don't think I've been fooled. I like to think when someone shows me a card trick, I can fucking figure it out. Maybe I can't. Maybe I have been bamboozled. I'll never rule it out. You're never too fucking smart. And so as a result, like, we have these opposed feelings about the CSPPA, its importance and its execution, and clearly those feelings have driven a wedge between us as friends, because he feels it's his life's work. It's like, you know, it's something he's always wanted. He's been talking about it for over a decade. He finally gets it, and then people he thinks are going to support him and back him all the way, we're scrutinizing and picking it apart, and then going on a podcast to 3,000 people and saying it's shit. Obviously it's going to upset him. I get that. And it doesn't mean he's wrong. And I've seen people even commenting on the episodes on YouTube channels. Scoots is evil now. Scoots is evil. Scoots is corporate. Scoots is on the wrong side of history. It's like, no, none of those things are true. Like, the reality is, Scott holds a different position to me and Duncan. And yes, he's been tetchy and petulant and feisty and all of those other words. Anybody who denounces him, or anybody who tries to detract from his stellar contribution to esports, is a fucking fool. You don't impress me with that. You know, if I'm not upset about it, you guys shouldn't be. To label him evil,
obviously doesn't take away any of the shit he did. That goes without saying.
To label him evil and imply he's somehow like fallen, you know, away, and please come back to the side of good, you know. No, he's doing what he believes in. Sometimes what you believe in will put you at odds with the people you care about the most, former friends, family. You know, sometimes if you really believe, you have to go all in. And that's what Scott's done with the CSPPA, and power to him. I think he's made a mistake. He thinks my judgment is a mistake. But he can go with God and do what he thinks is right, and anybody who talks down to him ain't no friend of mine.
I'll bring this back to what we were talking about earlier, though. The part I can't abide by is this. One, all of this could have been back-channeled. Could even have been until fairly recently. And then secondly, how many of our fucking shows has he been on? He could have... I did that whole series, Esports Salon. I believe he's the person who was the #1 guest on the show, because almost any topic, you can throw him in the mix. He could have done that from day one with CSPPA. We've heard his side out. For some reason, he just bunkered in. It's like he decided it was going to be war at the beginning, you know?
Yeah, but that's Scott. I think, listen, and like, you know, I think he thought we were going to get in the bunker with him.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because we've always been in the bunker with him.
That's why I say there was no backchannel, though. Because, for example, I'm trying to think off the top of my head. I'm pretty sure CSBPA was actually around the time of the Flashpoint shit. So it's like, no one ever talked to me. Like, I've said this a million times. I've done it with other people. You know, as I told you, I told the Flashpoint owners, you do understand, for me to bring you information that's from other people, from back channels, I must give them information through a back channel that you don't want out there. And they had to say, obviously don't tell us that, but yes, we understand. So similarly, right, I told certain people who were in the CSBPA at the time, who were talking to me, more like friends of mine who were in it, right? I told them, you are aware I could be your biggest friend in Flashpoint. I could even tell you what it is there. I could even make it so when you have an impasse, I can tell you what you both need to do on both sides to make the impasse go away. Certain people, if I can tell him, one of them just were, they just decided it was war, mate. So nothing good could come of it for some reason. I don't know why. Who knows why?
I mean, look, for me, what I'm gonna do, and you don't have to do this, but I mean, I'd recommend you mull it over as an idea. Is we've lived through just a fucking. It is a dystopia. What everything that's happened. I don't know if it ever ceases to be a dystopia. I mean, that might be wishful
thinking.
Take
away any reason you think anything has to happen. Look on the surface of it. If you arrived in a time machine today, you'd say this is a fucking dystopia.
Yeah, completely.
Of course you would.
And so as a result, what I'm going to try and do is, I mean, look, it's easy to sit here and sound like I've got it all figured out, and it hasn't affected me. It obviously has. I've probably, behaved out of character on a few issues, probably been a bit more tetchy and a bit more feisty. I'm equally going stir crazy. I'm coming out of a bereavement. I'm in a house by myself. I've seen my friends 3 times since I got back to my fucking country. Everything I'm doing is work-oriented. I'm working in 2 fucking time zones, in 3 fucking jobs. My head's probably gone at some point. Like, I know enough about myself. I catch myself pottering around the house, talking to myself like I'm fucking 72. You know what I mean? Just fucking, it's been mental. The whole thing's been mental. So on top of that, if I know that about me, and I consider myself to have a pretty strong box, like isolation doesn't really fuck with me, all of that stuff, like as depressed as I get, I always just fucking bunker down and let's go again, one more try, one more effort. I can G myself up mentally. But there's a lot of people who can't, and there's a lot of people who've really fucking suffered and struggled and had all sorts of mad shit going on. And like, again, I think about Scott, and I think about going from getting inducted in the Hall of Fame, and we're all there, and he's finally getting the respect he deserves. He delivered that long speech, didn't he? We were all fucking barracking him for, that's a really long speech. But mate, he had shit to get off his chest and shit to talk about. He just lined up his dream job. He finally got his own studio. For once, it was going to be Scoots, the on-air guy in front of the camera and behind the camera, the package, and he gets to do it with his best mate, his old foil alchemist, right, Jason? They all get to do it together. And then that's all took away because of the pandemic. Gone. Fucked. He's caring for an elderly relative at the same time all of this is happening. And then he's in fucking lockdown. And also, Americans, they can't help it. The entire system in America right now is set up to blow your box out. They want your box blown out. That's how they want it. And so, obviously, people's boxes have been blown the fuck out. I don't think it's going to hold true if we can all get in a room together and have a fucking beer and have a drink. I don't think that eye is going to be there. There's no poison in my fucking veins. So what I'm going to do is once we get back to this fucking better time, and I have to believe there is a better time ahead in the sense that the vaccine's going to come in. Sam's that is. We're all safe from the super spreader that is Sam, right? We're all going to be able to travel again, and the world's going to come back to normality. And I think a lot of the online vestiges that we've adopted to make sense of the here and now, we're going to look and we're going to say it's all been a bit daft. The overinvestment in politics, the overinvestment in some issues, social media being a primary form of communication when usually it would be fucking calls and hanging out and meeting people and traveling. I'm going to revisit a lot of the relationships that have broke down in the past 2 years when we get to the end of this. And if I need to go cap in hand and apologize to people, if that's my assessment, I'm going to go and do it. So there's no need for all. I think the bridges got burned because there was nothing else to do but burn bridges in a lot of cases. We had to inject something into our lives to just fucking feel like we were still here. Otherwise, what are you doing? You're staring at a monitor 24/7. I think some people, the heads genuinely went and they lashed out and they didn't mean to. I try not to hold people to their worst moments and their worst actions, even if they really hurt me and upset me. And I'm trying to move past being that petty and small. It's why, look, it's no secret some of the interview people I've been doing lately on the podcast. I'm trying to make bread. I'm trying to, break bread with old friends, like people who were friends and then we fell out. The Machine interview was like a 2-hour introspection about our relationship, essentially. That's really what it all boiled down to. And I'm glad we've made up, and I'm glad we're friends, and I'm glad we might get a working event together, and we can roll back the years. Where did all that come from? I don't know. But this last 2 years hasn't helped. So I think, this isn't like a plea or to implore Scott. He might not want to fucking make nice. But at the end of the day, he's a great man, was a great friend, still got lots of respect for him, even if we never talk again. And I don't want people doing that fucked up parasocial thing where because someone doesn't like me, you don't like them. No, respect that man for everything he did.
By the way, I don't know if you saw this because it was just a random tweet I made. I was watching some video. It was nothing to do with esports. It wasn't from a YouTube video from esports. And normally, I will say this is another way that we've flipped through some sort of looking glass. Famously, it was YouTube that was the bottom standard of comments on the internet. YouTube was just drivel. Now the top comments on YouTube are often fucking good. Like, it's like the upvote system works on YouTube or something.
Yeah.
So I saw a comment, I put it on my Twitter, which was an amazing comment. It just said something like, something along the lines of like, I'm trying to think of the phrase. I won't be able to get the phrase in and nail it, but the gist was like, if I have a dispute with my brother, I don't make it public because now my friends and my circle hate my brother on my behalf. And I don't hate my brother. I'm just having a dispute with him. That's like a good example of why I think it actually sucks when people who are like e-celebs, everything's done publicly.
Yeah.
Because you end up like you're saying in this scenario, like now your team has to be against which team are you on? Team Scooch or
No, but that probably helped exacerbate the 3 clicks Philip stuff to the point where it was ridiculous.
It did, of course.
Yeah. And it's like every drama you're in now, it's like because people's lives are all kind of wrapped up with this online shit because there's nothing else to do. It's definitely amplified. It's definitely amplified.
Sure.
So anyway, yeah, my answer's Scott for sure. Last 3 questions. Reykjavik on Steam. Now that little Momo is finally in the flames, will his replacement, give me that fucking check, Adrian, be able to live up to beautiful Momo? I mean, look, there's pros and cons with both of them, in my opinion. What I'm interested in is the Adrian Fallen dynamic. I want to know how that works. Adrian was an AWPer. Fallen's an AWPer. Will Fallen want to, Fallen's historically someone who's been difficult to coach, likes to do his own thing. Adrian's not a very forceful personality, but I bet all the other players like him, played with some of them. So, that's that. The jury's out for me. There's nothing in results to suggest he's a great tactical mastermind and he's going to revolutionize the team. But maybe there is enough there, and if he can get some duality working with Fallen, who knows? I still think Liquid, in its current form, can succeed.
I'll just say it like this very briefly. I do think it's possibly could be a better coach than Moses. I wouldn't rule that out, as often do with personal relationships. The problem is this: if they really think he is the missing piece, then now they're going to go to the top and be like the best team. They're not. Like that ain't going to be enough, based on what I know about him.
Yeah. So we move on to the penultimate question. This is Orky. If all of you had to identify the kryptonite of the other two, what would it be?
Like our fatal flaw, basically.
Me and you have one that's definitely the same.
What
Stupidity.
Oh, I can't handle it. Yeah, no. Yeah. Basically, that phrase which everyone spams to a cliche. He doesn't tolerate fools. They use that for too many people because most people do tolerate fools. I know people who love to just have like there's people I can't know how they do it. I see YouTubers who actually have like real back and forths with the trolls on YouTube and like trying to. No, I know you feel that way, but actually, like I can't do that. If you like one, here's the thing: a lot of people I'm sure who I've blocked on Twitter, right, technically didn't do anything wrong by their metric, right? But here's an example of what might have done. I might have done a tweet where it was like, right, I think Device joining Nip isn't the right move, and then they'll be like, so you're saying Nip can't ever win? It's like, you're just blocked immediately, mate. Like, you aren't even attempting to have a conversation with me. Yeah. I find that obnoxious that you're just going to talk past me to my Twitter account when I don't follow you. I never invited you to the conversation. You're just the dickhead who arrived at the party and went, change the music. It's like, get the fuck out. So I will say stuff like that annoys me more than a lot of other stuff. I can have massive disagreements with people philosophically, but all sorts of things. But yes, stupidity. I don't know if there's anything triggers me more, mate.
Yeah, and on that point, obviously sometimes it's subjective, and sometimes it's not stupidity. It's almost like social ineptitude, like which presents itself as stupidity because you believe you'd have to be stupid to not understand contextually, but like they're not stupid, they're actually quite smart, they're just socially inadequate and awkward in that way. But so that's kind of like a double pronged effect for me. But I really struggle with it, I really do. And of course the other thing, as we've seen many times, I absolutely despise being corrected when I'm correct. Like that will make me so angry, like unreasonably angry. And I don't know where it comes from. I think probably a little bit is like chip on your shoulder shit lay over from when you were a kid. Because, you'd have teachers talking down to you when, you actually have read the book and you're right. Or, when I moved to a relatively posh area, because of stuff that was going on with my family. So I went from having lived in like two of the worst places in Britain to living in a conservative stronghold. You can imagine, right? And so basically I had to put up with fucking cunts talking down to me my entire life. And I'd be like, no, I'm definitely right about this. No, because I remember distinctly, according to the book, and you'd be like, no, you're just wrong. Like, you're just wrong. You're like, I get it. You're meant to be smarter than me because you've had all the fucking opportunities, but you're wrong on this. Totally 100%. So it's probably some layover from that. But people do it all the time, like on the internet, because you're exposed to so many people all at once. They all come in and like, it only takes a handful and I go fucking nuts. And I see a lot of streamers struggle with this as well. Some of the most popular streamers on this platform, it's almost as if you have to suspect some people do it just to wind people up. And in which case, you're going to make someone pop a fucking blood vessel on stream. Like, you have to worry for fucking Hassan sometimes.
I know what one of yours is, mate.
What's mine?
You're fully aware of this because we've always joked about it. It's the fact that, right, there's a lot of people who like to think, right, you can banter about anything, which in theory is true, but you have to know the difference between what's going to be received as banter and just a direct insult, right? It's when they always try and they go, and they question that you're professional. You're not professional. You've got no integrity. It's like, that ain't a joke at that point in time, mate. That's actually that's literally the currency of my job.
Yeah.
So
I
know I have a problem with that anyway, but I noticed that always just that's what will put you over the line with a lot of people in it.
Yeah, oh, for sure. Like the American use of the word professional is so outrageous.
Yes.
I mean, the one thing I hate, I don't even know how to describe it. This has just become things I hate. But the one thing I definitely hate is like anything that Americans decide is the rule for the whole internet. I can't do it. Yeah. We just all have to live like that, do we? So, that's just something I hate. I don't even know if it's a kryptonite, but it's just something I hate. Sam, I'm going to say your kryptonite is a day's hard work. Deal with it.
I know what his kryptonite is. His kryptonite is getting an episode of By the Numbers VOD out before the day that the next episode is done. Because you know it, Sam.
To be fair, Duncan, if you wouldn't fucking keep...
Oh, I won't lie, it's hard.
I've seen the before and afters.
Listen, I won't lie, you do a good job of that. But what I'll say is this. The problem is, you have to understand how thick even some of our fans are. They always go, oh, the new episode's out. It's like, you dumb motherfucker. Of course it isn't. You know when they're all in the comments, I can't wait to see what they say about a dread. It's like, how would that be out today?
Tune in next week.
On the day it happened. I know, this is the day it happened, you daft cunt. It's not going to be on there, is it?
Yeah, no, and now that's led to an uprising of people saying, well, you should put the bloody date in it. It's the last episode. It's the last episode. Previously or By the Numbers, you mad cunt. You don't need a date.
I know.
What do you need?
But how am I supposed to know when this came up?
So mental. So, yeah, I'm going to say, those two were Sam's kryptonite for sure. What's your real kryptonite, Sam?
I don't know. I was trying to think what annoys me. I was going to say, you would be perfect for, like those punked episodes where like they just run into incompetent people over and over again. They film their reaction and they slowly bubble up. Like you go to the park and then like, sorry mate, we've lost your car. Like, brilliant. Okay, what am I going to do now? And you're going to have to go get a taxi, but I ain't got a phone. Oh, I can imagine you just pop.
Oh, no, you've seen me go off on people like that in real life. Like, I can't stand incompetence. Like, incompetence and sort of jobs worthery where it's like, is this a fucking service industry or what? Like, you know what I mean? Like, why are you talking to me like I'm the problem when you fucked up, you mad cunt? How about you talk, bit of courtesy, like, but nah, it never happens. But yeah, I mean, What else? Go on, Sam. You had to do too.
Oh yeah, I've already said this before. Like businessmen pretend to be important on their phones in public or on trains and just dominate in a room by trying to be like, look how important I just.
All right, yeah, I'm just on the train now. Yeah, sell them all. Sell it all. That's right. I'll get the Jag warmed up for anyone where you like.
That was such.
White boys.
That was such a phenomenon. Obviously, Dom Jolly used to do that fucking bit about it, didn't he? On what was that fucking terrible show he had?
I can't remember.
Something TV. Trigger Happy TV?
Yes, that could be it. I think that's it, yes.
But yeah, so all right, there you go. Right, last question, and then we can get the fuck out. Another 3-hour extravaganza, because of course. First sock, what is the greatest television show in your opinion? Is it better than the greatest movie? So, I've gone back and forth down the years.
Ooh.
First of all, I'll say the best TV shows, I think.
I could guess yours. Sopranos, The Wire. There's two immediate.
Well,
they're Hall of Famers for you, right?
I used to say The Wire for ages. And increasingly, what I found interesting is I have less regard for Breaking Bad. Breaking Bad is.
I think I was ahead of the game on that one. It's not as terrible. It was just a bit overblown, wasn't it?
No, but so Breaking Bad is basically like, to use an analogy, it's like, you have that night out, you have that party, and you're fucking there, and you're doing coke and you're doing MD, Molly or whatever, and fucking you're having a good time, and the party feels like great and super more significant. Right, because of the drugs, but really it's a shit party. You haven't had a good time. You didn't really know anyone there. You were just fucked up, and it felt brilliant. And you have this memory of it being like a wicked night, and then one day you just sort of dawns on you like, fucking hell, I just spent ages talking to strangers, coked out my fucking mind. Like that was garbage. That's not even a top 5 party. The drugs were good. And Breaking Bad's basically like that. Breaking Bad is just like, it was such a fucking. I was watching it in real time, and so it was just a rush and a culmination, and where's it going to go? And you had this like mad ending, and obviously legendary performances. The performances are what really sold it. But in retrospect, I remember people at the time saying, "Oh, it's so realistic." I mean, like the depictions of the cartel drug trade that has aged terribly. It's like so cartoony and over the top. So Breaking Bad's like actually dropped down now because Deadwood's never going anywhere. Deadwood is a solid 3.
That's a mad sleeper one. A lot of people have seen that one.
Yeah. Deadwood, even that movie they made, the Deadwood movie, which they made like 16 years after the fact. It's on HBO. Check it out. Okay. Ian McShane fucking kills it again.
That's the main reason I was into that show. Is the shit, isn't he?
Yeah. So Deadwood's brilliant. Shakespearean Western, incredible characters, brilliant, great female characters written well at a time in TV when there was a, dearth of stuff like that. But yeah, it used to be The Wire, and then because I watched recently all of Homicide, Life on the Streets with Yaphet Kotto, because I thought Yaphet Kotto passed away recently, so I was like, fucking hell yeah, they was in that wicked TV series. Actually, because of that, because I saw some like recycled bits, The Wire goes down to 2, and The Sopranos is number 1. It's the greatest thing on TV. James Gandolfini, it's one of the best performances ever of a lead role. And for me, as much as I love movies and I'm a cinephile in that regards, The Sopranos is it's something I can go back to. I can watch any episode from any season out of order and just appreciate its brilliance. It's so good.
Those would definitely be my top 5. I think those two just stand the test of time. They got replay value. I would personally say it's funny because comedy isn't usually my main thing, but what I always say is Seinfeld. I actually just think it's just, to me, it's like pitch and tone perfect. If you like it, you like almost all of them basically. Yeah. It's mega consistent, and unlike a lot of series, Game of Thrones, they actually ended probably the best season. They ended at their absolute peak when everyone was hitting all the cylinders. The writing was incredible. You'll almost never get that ever.
The ending was...
The last episode is shit, yeah. But that's also because it's like a ridiculous premise. It's not a show that should have an ending. It's not a story, is it? Like, it's just stuff happening, yeah.
I
don't think personally that TV's better than movies, though. Like, the best movie can have a way more powerful effect on me than a TV show, typically,
I guess it's because what I get invested in is character arcs, and it's just so easier and more fulfilling to have a character arc over, like I say.
Oh, of course, yeah.
like Homicide: Life on the Streets is 95 hours of television, and some of the characters in season 1 are still there by the end. So imagine the arcs they fucking go through, and all the ups and the downs, and and it's the same with Tony. He goes from likable mobster where they were just like, fucking we got to make this guy bad because everyone's on Team Tony. People hate Carmella, for fuck's sake. We got to do something. Well, time to go to bed, Christopher Moltisanti, and there it was. And in that moment, he does cross that threshold into evil, doesn't he? So it's like, I agree. In containment, like one episode of television has to go as good as a movie, sure. But I think with The Sopranos and things like Deadwood in mind, I think you can do really incredible character arcs with TV, and sure. I think we're getting much, much better at doing that. Even TV shows that I don't rate particularly highly, that don't break into the top 10. You look at some of the character work they do and some of the writing, and it's on par with movies these days, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. I think that'll be a more interesting debate in like 30 years or something.
Yeah, I think so. And just on Seinfeld, before we wrap up the show, incredibly, I came to that late because I was a bit of a snob when it came to television, and I rejected all that American comedy bullshit. And in my mind, I'd sort of conflated Seinfeld as being something like Friends, like
put it this way.
Diabolical US sitcom.
I always tell people I hate comedies in America because they have the laugh track. This has a laugh track. I mean, it's a live audience, but like, it's one of the only ones where it's not obnoxious to me. Because that's another thing. It would be I can see why on the surface people are like, "You're into that," or whatever. It's just like, look, I just think it has something more under the surface. It's got a lot of like actual like fucking commentary on reality, etc. Basically in a comedy.
Yeah. All right then. That's another bumper episode of By the Numbers. We'll be back at some point next week. Let's wrap it up, though. So shout out to the sponsors, which I didn't do at the start. It's all right. Sam will work something out. He always does. But shout out to .com. Go to .com/RLS if you want to place some bets on some esports events in a safe, ethical environment. They're awesome. Love working with them. And, of course, NordVPN. That's how I keep bypassing all of the bans and attempts to put cookies on my PC so I can fuck with all you cretins in your backyard on Reddit, and you're all trying to figure out, he's this account, he's that account, he's this account. It's so obvious who I am. People keep getting it wrong, but whatever. So, yeah, go to NordVPN. NordVPN.com/RLS. Sign up there, 70% off. It's a hell of a product. And of course, shout out to all our patrons who give us their hard-earned money to do this show. Jerky's Minion, and these are $100 patrons cost. Jerky's Minion, Will the Weed Wrangler, Benedict, Zarathenia, Cathal, Flacksmith, J Dubs, Hanamaru, Alice, Tobias Bernasconi, Carve, and Marcus Kiyonpar. And our $50 patrons, Zumba. Sorry, I did see your question there, mate. I couldn't answer it. It was too inflammatory. Double up next time. Petty Grievances. Let's see if someone's called Petty Grievances. Tim Frost, Bukowski, Dancer Master, Adam Ox, Nolan, Judas, Can of Pasito, Airrammer, Norwegian Clamai, Barkin, Goody Woody, Lonnie, Fursock, Echo, Res Chi, Miss Alcoholic, BP420, Watch Doge, Reykjavik on Steam, Carter, CMAC 1991, Benakagi, Alexi, and Sard Sawar. That was By the Numbers. We'll see you sometime next week, and until then, take care of yourselves.